Hi, am I on the air?
Yep.
Fuck.
Thanks.
I've been in the danger zone.
He got a bicycle.
Minus 5 stars.
Mango.
Huh? Yeah, my five. We're coming for you,
Jeff Harvey.
How much does a skyway?
Play.
4x21.
Fuck him.
Red Dragon!
Oh yeah, what up everybody? Welcome back. It is that time again. It is Am I Still on the Air? It's our nice little spin-off show where we take one specific topic and we dive on into it. Y'all knew this was coming. I talked about it on the last episode of Am I on the Air? I think we've been pretty much pimping it out for the last couple weeks. You knew it was coming. Last summer we did a bunch of them, and that's our world-famous spoiler reviews. So the number one movie in the world, of course, is Avengers Age of Ultron. This is our official kickoff into the summer season. We all saw Avengers together last week on the Thursday preview night. It's actually been 1 week now today. We were actually watching this movie in the theater at this exact time last week. And so, you know, we came out of it. We all pretty much loved it, and we really want to dig into it. I did a spoiler-free review of it on Am I on the Air, and boy, it was really hard to do because there was a lot I wanted to talk about, but you gotta be kind of picky with what you're talking about in these spoiler-free reviews. So I've been waiting to do this one, get the gang together. It was time to assemble once again. We got everybody here. We got Geeky Pat, we got Peeps, and we even got Frigginz. We were all together a week ago watching this, and now we have reassembled to talk about the movie in detail, what we loved, what we maybe didn't love, what we want from future films, talking about where maybe things are going, some Easter eggs, all of it. It's spoiler-filled. I'm warning you right now, if you don't want spoilers, go listen to the Am I on the Air episode, Age of Awesome, and listen to the spoiler-free review. Or go watch my review on Instagram. You'll have a kick out of that one, too. But tonight, it's all about spoilers. So before we get started, let me say what up to the panel. What is going down, everybody?
What up, what up?
What it do?
What up, Geek Nation?
Geek Nation. Pat is very somber.
He's our Ultron tonight.
He is. He's got that James. He's going to do the whole show as Ultron.
Puppets on strings. I have no strings.
On me.
On me. I actually hurt my throat.
So welcome to the show again, everybody. It is all about spoiler-filled Age of Ultron, the second Avengers film. We know in a couple years we're getting that 2-part Infinity War, which we found out today is going to be filmed to 100% in IMAX, which is really incredible because, we are all lovers of the IMAX film quality, and it takes a lot to film a movie in IMAX. You got to have the right cameras, and they announced today that Avengers Infinity War 1 and 2 will be the first movies ever in Hollywood to be filmed 100% with the brand new IMAX cameras. So that is super, super exciting. But before we get to that, we got Civil War coming up, and there's a lot going down in there that we'll kind of touch on. But tonight's all about that Age of Ultron. So kind of starting out, we'll give our general impressions of the film, and then we'll talk about our favorite moments. We'll talk about some of the stuff we didn't like, and then we'll give our final scores on the film. So let's get it cracking. I loved this movie. I loved it so much. I need to see it again. I really, really hope that I can go see it maybe this weekend again, because I really feel I need to see it in a second viewing to really truly know where I want to place this in my ultimate Marvel puzzle board. Avengers, the first one, is my favorite Marvel film of all of them. And I have a feeling I really, really enjoyed this one, and I have a feeling that this might actually top it and become my favorite Marvel film. But I need to see it again before I make that judgment. But, coming out the gate, as soon as this movie started, you get the opening Marvel, logo. And then, boom, you get an action scene, right out the gate where they're busting into the Hydra facility, and you see, this they did that awesome kind of thing, like they did in Daredevil in that hallway fight, where they do this one continuous shot, where the camera comes over the hill, and you see Hawkeye just throwing his bows everywhere, and then you see Black Widow, she's chucking stuff, and then Iron Man comes flying out the side, and he's blasting people, and then there comes Thor flying in and hitting people with hammers, and then here comes Cap over the mountain in his motorcycle, motorcycle, like busting people up with the shield, and then you see Hulk just come barreling in, like, and this was all done in this one continuous shot, and it was just so sweet. I loved how they just literally just got right into it. There was no, long, boring build-up. I mean, if there's anything about the first Avengers is that it takes a long time for them to do anything, because it's just, it's getting all of them together. And I understand that, and I'm not saying that's a problem, but what I love about sequels sometimes is the fact that they don't have to have any of that origin or that build-up, and it's just, let's just get to it and kick some ass. And, so they do, and it really, it tied in right off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I really, really loved, because, that show gave us a lot of insight going right into this movie. They had found Baron von Strucker, and they knew where the base was, and they know he's been experimenting on people. And are they Inhumans? Are they just experiments? Are they miracles? What are they? We hear about the twins. We knew about that from the Captain America after credit scene. And but the twins are not really on the Avengers side, and they kind of get sent out. And you see Quicksilver, and he messes up Hawkeye, and you got Scarlet Witch playing with people's heads, and and they're on the opposing side coming right out the gate. But the Avengers kick ass. They have that awesome party, like and then Ultron is created. He's just this broken down robot, but and he wants to destroy all of humanity. And we get a lot of cool moments with the party and everything. I'm sure we'll dive into that more later. But basically it's the creation of Ultron, and Ultron tries to take Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch kind of under his wings, and he uses them as kind of minions until Scarlet and Quicksilver kind of realize, man, this dude's a little crazy, and he's taking shit a little bit too far. So they back off, and they kind of try to join the Avengers, and they got to earn their trust. We see the creation of Vision and how that all came together was awesome. Great addition to the storyline. Everything just flowed in this movie to me, and we got a great backstory on Hawkeye, a lot of different, we find out he's married and he's got kids, and, which leads you even more to believe he's going to die, but, he ends up not dying. And, but they tease you, he's like, when I come back home, I'm going to fix that cabinet, and then that's it. No more, projects at home. And you're like, yeah, he's never going to fix that cabinet. And, it's just several moments, that Joss Whedon, the director, just kind of placed in there knowing he's fucking with people, because everybody was assuming Hawkeye was going to bite it, except for me, because I told you guys on the show he was going to be in Civil War. I told you. So you shouldn't have been expecting him to die.
It could have been a flashback.
No,
it could have been a flashback. Could have been, yeah.
Nah. I don't think even
it could have been a flashback to
flashback,
Captain America, Winter Soldier.
For a flashback scene, they're not going to waste the time announcing him joining the cast, because that would just be like a cameo, and they don't usually announce cameo roles like that. So
he could have been like in Black Widow's mind the whole time, like, keep going, do it for me, Romanoff.
But speaking of those Civil War announcements, one person missing from the announcements was Quicksilver. So going into the movie, I was like, I don't know if Quicksilver's going to make it out of here. We know Elizabeth Olsen's coming back to be Scarlet Witch, and then there we had it. Quicksilver got shot, and he died saving Hawkeye, which was awesome. You didn't see that coming?
Yeah, he didn't see it coming.
He didn't see that coming?
That was
cool. So we'll talk more about Quicksilver and all of them later on. But yeah, just general impressions. We see S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of make a return, and they kind of come to save the day with Nick Fury having a helicarrier, and they get everybody to safety. Vision and Ultron have a nice father-son kind of almost moment in it, like at the end before Ultron's destroyed. Hulk is just floating around the sky somewhere at the end, and we're like, where the hell's he going? And, a lot of loose ends to the film, which I really like, because it makes me want to be like, okay, what's next? Where's everybody going? Because at the very end of the film, you basically have, like, Thor has seen the visions of the Infinity Stones, and he knows shit is going down on Asgard, so he's got to go back for Ragnarok. So he leaves and goes back to Asgard. Tony, I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he ends up bouncing. Like I said, Hulk is floating up in the sky. Hulk is up floating in the sky in a Quinjet. So literally all we got left, I mean, even Hawkeye goes home basically to his family, so it's almost like he retired. So it's like all that's left is Black Widow and Cap, and then you see them at the very end assemble the new team.
The B team.
The B team. You have War Machine, you have the Falcon, you have Scarlet Witch, and you have Vision. And basically, the movie ends with a nice, okay, Avengers, and it cuts off, and and that's it, man. We had a nice little after credit scene, shows Thanos popping up again. He's got an Infinity Gauntlet, and he says, "Okay, I'm gonna do it myself." And so he's getting ready to bust some shit. Chris Evans in an interview last week said that Civil War is going to be a nice lead-in to the Infinity War, that there's going to be a lot of seeds planted in there. So, and that movie is so packed as it is that they're going to be leading into Infinity War also. So, like I said, just a non-stop thrill ride. This film is over 2.5 hours long. We know that the first version Joss Whedon turned in was rolling on close to 4 hours long, and then he trimmed it back to about a 3-hour cut, and then Marvel was like, nah, you need to tweak it up some more. And it's funny because ever since the movie came out, Joss has been doing a lot of PR, he's been doing a lot of interviews, and he's been pretty much not holding back about Marvel, and he's pretty much been coming out and saying, I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that, and, he explained that there was a lot of scenes that were just cut and chopped on him, and they made him put certain things in, or they'd have to take other things out, and he had to play a big negotiation game with this film to keep what he got. And I don't think he's that thrilled with the process, to be honest.
It sounds like he's unhappy with the whole situation.
Yeah, he's coming off very, very bitter right now. We all know he's not coming back. The Russo brothers are taking over everything. And it's sad because the dude made 2 excellent films, and I think he did the best that he could with a 2.5-hour runtime. Because I know a lot of people were saying, like, oh, this wasn't fleshed out or that wasn't fleshed out. It's hard, man, when you only have 2.5 hours to tell this massive story with 15 different characters. It is a really hard, daunting task. So it seems like he got ran through the mud making this film with what to put in, what to take out, and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I think he did a great job. I think he gave us the film we really wanted as a follow-up. We had a darker movie, kind of, in the vein of like an Empire Strikes Back kind of sequel, where you just had this darker take, darker villain. There was some stakes there. Somebody actually died, and I don't think they're coming back, like Mr. Coulson. And, to me, the action was just up to 10. I love the addition of Vision and Scarlet and Quicksilver, and everybody new that got brought in was awesome. I loved, the Avengers Tower, and, the introduction to Wakanda and Vibranium, and just all the little nuggets that were pieced in there. And and it really it left off with feeling really good of like, man, I can't wait to see the next chapter of all these guys. So overall,
and
like
Veronica.
I said, Veronica, Hulkbuster fight was amazing.
Veronica.
So cool.
I don't know if you guys know, but the nice little trivia about the Veronica thing was based on, he built it with Bruce, and it's based off the Archie comic. It's Betty and Veronica, Betty for Betty Ross, and then Veronica is the other opposite. So that's why the machine is called Veronica, in relation with the Betty Ross character. So it's actually really a nice little trivia piece there for you. That's actually really, really cool. But yeah, an awesome scene there where in the original script they were actually going to turn Hulk into the Gray Hulk during that Hulkbuster fight.
I heard that.
They totally should have.
Definitely.
I mean, there was a Funko doll that was put out as a Hot Topic exclusive that is the Gray Hulk. And that was because I was in the early productions and stuff. They said, yeah, he's going to be gray and all this stuff. And they were saying that, they just... audiences were getting confused, and they said, we like the green guy, don't go changing his color, which was stupid because they were only really doing it because of Scarlet Witch being in his head, and that's why he kind of tweaked out in a different way. So, I mean, it's not like they had to really dive into why he was gray. It would have just been a cool little nod, to something different. So that kind of sucks that they changed it back, but...
who cares if people are confused? I
agree. I know.
Hulk is not a complicated character.
Yeah, but, they're like, well, we only get to see Hulk in these Avengers films, so we don't want any scenes without him being green. So, it's ridiculous for us, of course, but, I mean, it's the politics, man. I mean, that's another thing that, Joss had to change because of them being like, nah, let's just leave him green, So, a lot of things there, but like I said, overall impressions right now before we get into really the big pros and cons, I loved it. Fred, let's go to you. General impressions coming out of it, like, what'd you think?
Well, number one, like as soon as that Marvel insignia comes up on the screen and starts going, I instantly got like butterflies. It's like you hear the music and you just get super, super excited. And for the whole general impression, I like the movie. It's a great movie. I enjoyed it, had a good time. It made me feel like a kid again, like that giddiness. But I did walk away lacking something. So, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying like it's a terrible movie. No, not at all. It's a great movie. I enjoyed the hell out of it. But it still didn't have something. Something was missing for me. So, really, really enjoyed all the cool scenes that you were kind of going into detail and discussing, and I'm sure we'll talk about our favorite scenes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's great. I had a good time, but I still just something was a little off for me.
All right. Well, when we get to our negatives, you can dive into what you feel was off there. Peeps, what was your general impression?
Hated it. Couldn't stand any. No, I'm just kidding. No, I freaking loved it. Of course, I loved it, dude. Um, I definitely think it's up there, with my, top favorite Marvel flicks. But I am, kind of with Friggin's. I also feel that it lacked, and I think, this whole bit with Josh, feeling like he wasn't able to tell the full story. I kind of feel that. I kind of feel that there were a lot of bits that they kind of skipped over. And, when we, get through the negatives, I'll be more than happy to kind of, give some more details with that. But I felt like they gave us it kind of felt like Transformers, the Age of Extinction. The action scenes, the CGI, the overall, like, choreography was great, and like the characters were great, and everything was great, but there was just something else that I wanted. I guess I wanted to kind of leave the film with that same kind of, wow, like this is a total game changer. Like I felt at the end of Winter Soldier, that I kind of got that feeling, but I didn't get it as much as I did with Winter Soldier. So, but as Friggin said, overall, I was ridiculously satisfied when that first scene started that you're explaining, with that one extended scene with all the Avengers, like, kicking Hydra's ass. Like I was just like, oh, like I was so excited. I'm like, I was telling, I think I was sitting next to Fred's lady. I was just telling, like, this is so freaking cool. Like I couldn't contain myself, and like you said, it was great scenes, but again, I just, there was something, that the nucleus wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just kidding, but yeah, man, loved it though.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, Geeky Pat has seen it twice, so how you feeling? Overall impression.
Well, it was like losing my virginity. It was a awesome ride, but over too quick, and I wanted more. It was absolutely a awesome movie. I didn't leave feeling like there was anything wrong with the movie itself, and the second time through, it made me realize it is now my favorite Marvel movie that's out, which is hard because I really liked Guardians and I really liked Avengers 1, but this was just extremely well done. The villain was likable, and yet you were rooting for and against him at times. He was very personable for a robot. I feel like every character, because Joss Whedon's good at this, making every character matter. And he did that through Firefly, did that through Buffy. I mean, he just, everything he's ever touched, he's character driven, and this could have easily just been an action driven movie, but it wasn't. And it even kind of sucked. You kind of felt something even when, Quicksilver died. I mean, it was outstanding experience for me.
Oh yeah, awesome. So that's good to hear, and that's what I'm hoping I come out with after I see it the second time. So, overall impressions, we all really liked it. Like you said, Fred and Peeps, overthinking it a little bit and got and had some holes in there. But they'll talk about that, and it's all good. That's why we're all together here. So to give multiple opinions on everything, that's what I like about assembling the team. Because we don't want four exactly same things. I like to hear the different things that you guys like. So we'll actually start with our negatives. So we can bounce back with all our great positive stuff at the end. So we'll start at negatives, and you know what? I don't really have much to talk about. For me, my biggest negative is really, I guess, the rush of some of the things. I felt Ultron was rushed. His creation was rushed. Basically it's like Tony and Banner are working on this Ultron program. They're basically utilizing the stuff from Loki's staff to help build it. And he sees like, oh, there's like, we can make artificial intelligence with this, and but they keep failing. Like they've tried for several days, and you see this little montage of like trial failed, trial failed, trial failed, and then it's the night of the big party, and another trial fails. But for some reason, the second Tony leaves the room, it's like, whoop, Ultron successful and created. And it goes into that little shitty body, that comes out very puppety, you guys are all strings, I'm Ultron, like, and he ends up getting his ass kicked, like, super easily by Captain America. He throws the shield into him, shatters him. But the cool thing about Ultron was the fact that every time he destroyed him, he kind of just bounced his brain to another body. That was cool. What I expected, though, was to see him go through several different body changes and enhancing throughout the film. From the really broken down kind of Iron Man suit in the beginning to maybe like a little bit of a better body, then to a little bit of a bigger body. And then like he got the vibranium, but we never saw him coat himself in the vibranium. So I never really got in the timeline when the hell did he have the vibranium on? Because there was several fights of him in his final design that they still beat him pretty easily. Like when they're in Wakanda and they go after Iron Man's fighting him and everything, he ends up blasting them to pieces. And, like there's several scenes with him where you're just like, okay, does he have it on yet? Does he have it on yet? And we see in the trailer, there's a scene in the trailer where you see his hand kind of with like the lava looking like dripping, with the vibranium coating his armor. And I felt like he always looked very dingy to me. Whereas like in the trailer, I thought he had a very shiny chrome look, and I kept waiting for that to happen, like as the signal that, hey, he's got the vibranium over his metal now, because look how, shiny and chrome looking he is. And that just never really happened, and I felt like it was literally, he was the broken down Iron Man suit, Cap throws his shield in him, shatters him, and like the very next scene, he's already the big Ultron chilling in the throne room with the towel over his head when Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch walk in and they're like, yeah, you wanted to meet us? And he's like, hey, everybody. And he's like in this like built up awesome new suit. And I'm like, where the hell did that suit come from? Like where did he build that? Like he all of a sudden he's like 8 feet tall and he's got like the cool looking head and body and everything. When the hell did that happen? When did he piece that together? So like I just wish that he would have gone through several different versions. Like, you see in the comics and stuff, Ultron was always kind of like enhancing himself and creating, like making himself better and better and better to become the big villain that he is. And I expected to kind of see that on screen, that, like he gets shattered, so then he builds himself a new body. It's a little bit better, but still not a match for anybody. So they keep destroying him, and every time he builds up a little bit better till you see that final version of him where he's got the vibranium and he's like indestructible. I felt that was completely rushed. Like it was just like, I felt like it was so soon from him getting smashed to all of a sudden the very next scene he's like, hey everybody, I'm already in my new body I built overnight, and that was a little bit much for me. I felt like they didn't explain to me what the hell was up with Tony from the last movie.
Iron Man 3 didn't exist.
Iron Man 3 just was like disregarded, which is fine by me because the movie sucks. So it's like,
exactly.
I don't mind them disregarding it, which is, I'm sure it looks like the rest of the Marvel universe didn't care to explain on it either. We didn't have Pepper in it, like I wish, and that's another negative. I think that Pepper and Jane should have at least been at the party. I thought that was kind of weak that they had to be like, oh, they're just both off doing something.
No, when the Avengers meet up, the women aren't there.
There was plenty of women at that party, so there was no reason that their girls weren't on it. Pepper was in the first movie, so they totally disregard Iron Man 3. Basically, at the end of Iron Man 3, he takes the arc reactor out of his chest, he throws it in the water. He's like, I'm done being Iron Man. He blows up all his suits. He's retired basically. And in my mind, when they started making Age of Ultron, I thought the story was going to be about the fact that he was retired and he created an Iron Legion. Like there was those robots he called the Iron Legion that he called in at the beginning that were like mock Iron Man suits. And
cool.
They were pretty cool. But I thought that that's what it was going to be. Like he created this Iron Legion that was going around the world and protecting people and fighting crime, so he didn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, and that that was basically how Ultron was created, because Ultron was a part of the Iron Legion or whatever, and then he got corrupted and he kind of grew out of that. But that wasn't the case. It was just like I said, the movie starts and boom, he's Iron Man. He's just flying around, shooting everything,
And it almost seemed like they were kind of going that route when the Ultron, or when his mock robots were like, please stay there. It's okay. We got this. So I'm like, okay, so like maybe he's doing both. But yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, definitely. Which
They were almost in the movie just to give original body to.
Right.
You never see them again. They never use them to fight Ultron later, which never made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very well because it looked like he only had like 4 of them or 5 of them. Like it didn't look like he had that many of them.
Either.
They all got destroyed, and he just never built any more.
Yeah, he built like 50 Iron Man suits that can, but only
fully
like 2 or 3
Iron Man suits.
Oh shit!
Well, maybe it took him a while to build the Iron Man suits, and he's only had, since Iron Man 3 to now to build the 5 robots.
We don't
I don't
even
know.
how long it's been.
I felt like I said, like going back and just thinking in my head how the movie was going to pan out. I really thought they were going to play off the fact that he was retired. And, like, the Avengers could have been out there fighting still, but he was doing it from, like, the sidelines, just letting the Iron Legion handle it. And then it was, once Ultron was created and kind of, like, went out of control, that was what was going to kind of, like, pull Tony out of retirement, make him put the Iron Man suit back on kind of thing. And so, like, I just felt like they just totally just said, fuck it, about the end of Iron Man 3 and just, put that out there. And I don't know, like that's pretty much. I'm trying to think. I mean, for the most part, I think it was nice to see the cameos from like Falcon at the party, and seeing Rhodey because he kind of got shafted in the first Avengers, and seeing the little side characters. I wish there would have been a little bit more of it. That's why I wanted to see Jane and Pepper, at least at the party. Like especially Jane, because Pepper got to make a little cameo in the first film. Why not Natalie Portman in this one? It's like Thor basically gave up being king of Asgard and said, I'm going to go live on Earth and protect Earth to be with Jane because she's the woman I love. And then he's at this party like, yeah, she's off somewhere just doing some work. And it's like, okay, so what the fuck you doing here, Thor? Then, like, isn't there better shit going on in Asgard that you need to go protect?
And he could fly anywhere, so wouldn't he know, like, okay, she's over in England or whatever?
Yeah, he made it sound like she's just somewhere. I have no idea, but but it was that funny scene where he was like, "But Jane's better." Like,
I loved it.
That was great.
Yeah, that was funny.
Comparing the girlfriends. I guess the only other negative thing was I felt like Thor going into the hot tub time machine was a little bit weird. Like that scene just felt so out of place to me. Like he was like, they're at the farm, and then he's like, I had a vision and I need to go take care of some shit, and he takes off, and then he's like goes and finds Eric Selvig, which I'm like, okay, that's cool, another cameo, because I love cameos. So I'm like, cool, show me another character from the universe. And then he's like, I need your help. And then all of a sudden they're like in a cave, and he's like, I'm gonna go take a bath. And I'm like,
I need you to watch me.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck is Eric doing here? Like, why is he needed? Where the fuck is this cave? Like nothing was explained. Like I was having trouble being like, is this cave on Asgard? Is this on Earth? Like, where is this cave? And why the hell do you need Eric Selvig to chill with you? Like Thor's explaining the cave to Eric. So I'm like, so what is the purpose of Eric being in this cave? Now
they made it sound like that it was on Earth, and Eric knew where it was at, and Thor didn't. And Eric got him there, and then Eric told him the like theology, I mean the mythology of it, saying, and that most people who come in here don't come out, Thor. And Thor's like, yeah, I'm gonna bathe in there anyway because I'm freaking Thor.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just an excuse to get his shirt off, but
throw him in the water.
They're like, we need Chris Hemsworth shirtless at some point in this movie. Let's make him take a bath. I feel like, and I do know, on a side note with it, even though that scene felt very out of place and didn't really feel needed, I do know that in Joss Whedon's original version, he says that scene was a lot longer, which made it make a lot more sense. He says that, they did film a scene with Loki that was part of that when he was having the visions in the bath. He was seeing Loki. I think if I remember correctly, he was saying the scene was like Loki was sitting on the throne and saying like, oh, I'm the new king of Asgard or whatever. And Thor's like, yeah, whatever. But it was supposed to be that symbolism because he's pretending to be Odin, right now, so like it was supposed to be like a hint to Thor, like, hey, your brother's
Yeah.
fucking around here, and then like it was supposed to open up more to Ragnarok and explain more about the Infinity Gems, and it was just a longer scene, but they said that the scene played out kind of weird, and they thought the Loki thing felt forced, so they made him cut the Loki part out, and it said that like he trimmed the scene so much that then when it was put back in the movie, it just didn't really seem like it meant anything, so it kind of is
I agree.
unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it seems like it would have been probably kind of a cool, interesting scene, but because it was such a packed movie and he had to trim so much out of it, it took away from it so much though that's like a scene that I know a lot of people were like, what the fuck was the point of that? And that kind of sucks that that they just have this
And
weird scene in there.
so
that people
much
are
was
confused
built
about.
up after that for him. Like he had to go back. He had,
Yeah.
they were talking about like it was his destiny and his, he had to go do this. And they're like, okay, he got wet and saw a party with him now. I don't know.
Yeah, where everybody's eyes
Yeah.
were white. Yeah.
Yeah, roll that, don't you tell?
Yeah. So it was weird. I mean, I felt like it was a little bit needed because that made him understand about the Infinity Gems, and he knew like something was coming, and they kind of like gave that foresight for him to explain about the Infinity Gems. So that was cool. It also made him create Vision, because I was after that cave scene that he came and like like a Dr. Frankenstein Vision to life, like because he saw it in his head, like, hey, we got to bring this guy. He's got an Infinity Stone in his head. I need this guy. So I mean, it had its reason to be there, but it felt like a very odd scene, especially the way it was trimmed down. So hopefully, if we get that extended cut, that it maybe explains stuff a little bit more. Plus, in the trailer, we see like this bald-headed black chick walking into that water in that cave,
Yep.
and like
Yeah,
there
I
was,
wanted to know who that was.
that scene was not there, and we have no idea what the hell that was, like because I remember when that scene first came out in the trailer, everybody was speculating, oh, it's Black Panther's sister, and it's something with somebody from that Black Panther tribe, and that
Wakanda.
cave is in Wakanda, yeah, and all this stuff. So it was just that scene just wasn't there. So
She couldn't make a cameo because she was bald.
exactly.
It's interesting because so many people have a problem with this particular issue. I mean, you go online and you see everyone talking about the Thor scene, and it's kind of funny to almost rub it in the nose of the executives and see, look, Joss knew what he was doing. Just let them leave the damn scene in there, and everyone would have been like, oh, that's what that's for.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we would have watched a 3-hour movie. We would have watched a 4-hour movie. I mean,
no, totally. We all would
it was
have.
packed the day we were there, and nobody said, "Oh, that movie was too long." At 2.5 hours.
And it doesn't feel that way, It felt like it
Yeah,
was a fast
it's over
movie, and I
quick.
hear so many people say the same thing. So I don't think it really would have made a difference if they would have added an additional 30 minutes, whatever.
No. Well, the thing is that that's the money side of the business, because if you add another
Right.
30 minutes, now that movie can only be played one less time every day.
Per day,
Which
yeah.
if you take one showing out of every theater every day times 50 states, like that's millions of dollars that is just completely
Yeah.
forgone because you made a longer
Yeah.
movie. So I mean, I get it. That's why movie studios don't want movies to get close to that 3-hour mark, because it just limits how many showings in a day they can do. But when you have like a massive tentpole movie like this, I think sometimes you just gotta say F it. It's still gonna be $1 billion movie regardless of its
You're gonna
runtime.
make your
Yeah.
money on the back end just on DVDs and Blu-rays. I mean, that's just a stupid reason to make the movie shorter.
And now they're
I
getting
get
a lot
it.
of backlash from fans. I mean, there's so many people talking about how, especially with this particular scene, and there's been a lot of people online saying that, they were very disappointed with the movie. I mean, to the point where Joss Whedon, he got so much crap on social media that he quit Twitter.
He
I don't
deleted
know about
Twitter,
the other stuff,
yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like he doesn't want to hear all the crap, and
Yeah, I heard
he's
that on
getting
Don's
the
show.
blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks for him too, because he gets a lot of the blame for it, and it's not even his fault because they were making him cut, a lot of the stuff out of it. So it just sucks all around.
It does, yeah. It's bad, and I feel bad for Joss because it's like, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to please all the diehard fans and really give everybody everything they want. When I mean, you could tell this was such a hard ride for him, and
He'll never come back.
No, he'll never come back. I mean, just because he knows how much he had to sacrifice, and then maybe it's just a lot of the flack he was getting on Twitter was like, how could you do this and how could you do that? And he's like, man, I was trying to do the right thing and they wouldn't let me, or whatever the case may be. We don't know the full story, but yeah, he got so much shit over the weekend, that he just literally deleted his Twitter on Monday. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, as far as negatives go, like I said, that's all I really have is the fact that the cave scene didn't play out very well. I thought Ultron was super rushed, and I thought that they kind of just disregarded the Tony Stark aspect from Iron Man 3. Other than that, I think everything pretty much worked exactly the way I wanted it to. So, Fred, we'll cut it to you. What left you feeling like a little hole in your heart when you left the theater?
Well, number one, the disconnects that you've already mentioned. I mean, those are huge to me. I feel like if you're gonna have this big universe, everything needs to make sense and flow. So I definitely felt that it lacked to explain why Iron Man was already back in the suit fighting side by side after he gave it all up, you know? And so that was a big one for me, but you've already talked about that. And the Thor cave, of course, you know, we've talked about that now. The other thing that really stood out for me that you mentioned what was an amazing experience for you guys was the opening fight scene, the opening action scene where they come rolling in and you get that one long shot where everyone's kind of running down that hill. And I'm going to be flat out honest, like that scene was a huge disappointment to me. And maybe it was the 3D because we were watching in IMAX 3D and there were so many scenes that looked so beautiful. But when we were watching that opening scene, I literally it pulled me out of the experience. And I looked around and I looked at my girlfriend and I looked over at Sean. And I'm like, this looks like a damn cartoon. I was so upset.
You had a Lucy moment.
It was
did.
the 3D. It was the 3D because when I watched it again outside of 3D, it was really most noticeable in 3D when Cap was on the motorcycle.
Yes, that was the worst.
But in the 2D, it looks so much better.
Okay, well that's
looks
good
less blurred. Yeah.
I definitely plan.
Ultimately, I don't want to say don't go see it in 3D because ultimately it's still the best experience. Just that one opening scene part with that the Cap on the motorcycle looks so much better in 2D than it did in 3D. It wasn't that action scene wasn't as blurred. It was a little more crisper without the 3D.
Now that gives me hope because the rest of the movie was fantastic in 3D. You know, it was really, really good. But that was so distracting that it pulled me out. And anytime a movie pulls me out of that experience, Sean knows, everyone, you know, Peeps knows. Like I just have like that's an instant negative for me. And it just looked way cartoony. Thor looked cartoony. The motorcycle was terrible. And so that was something that really bothered me. And I'm hoping we'll, like as you were mentioning, Pat, like kind of get better with watching it in 2D. So that's exciting to hear that looks better. But it just made me wonder, like, why did they go to the CG for that scene? I feel like, I mean, I know there was a lot going on.
They have to.
You could,
but
you can have.
They only do practical effects and not CG. Come on.
You had Hulk smashing through things. You had Iron Man flying. You had Thor flying. Like, there's no way
Iron Man is always CG for the most part, anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, Captain America riding down that hill in the motorcycle, that could be all real. They could have people do that. You get Thor flying in, sure, that part's CG, but then he lands and he's like hitting the guys with the hammer, totally fake and looking all rubbery like video game, and it was so distracting. So that bothered me a lot. And keep in mind, guys, this is me just saying these are the reasons why I didn't walk out saying I love that movie. Like, I still really, really, really like that movie, and I think that there's a lot of backlash going on where people saying like you have to either absolutely love this movie or you hate this movie, and it's not that. I'm like just
like Daredevil with me.
Yeah. So see, you get my point. Like it's just below. Absolutely loved it. Like it was just barely below. But so those are the main scenes. Another thing, and this is a tiny gripe. This is all nitpicky, I know, but I didn't think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. connected to the movie at all. You know, I felt like the reference. Dude, they just referenced it. They're just like guys with metal will fall from the sky.
There's like 3 or 4 episodes leading to this movie, dude. I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah. They mentioned the twins. They mentioned Von Strucker. It's the same old dude next to Von Strucker that's been in the last 6 episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like it's literally the same actor crossing over.
Did you want them to have the show? I don't know what.
The episode ends with them saying, "We found the base with Von Strucker who's doing the experiments on people. Let's go send the Avengers," and then that's exactly how the movie opens. You know,
I mean, he's gonna want that back.
It seems weird. There's a lot. To me, there was a lot of disconnects to that.
They can't overly connect the movie though, because for the
people
that don't watch S.H.I.E.L.D.
No,
you know, they gotta be careful the way they do that. You know, so they're little things.
My point is, like, I felt like, you know, I don't know. I felt like there was an opportunity to connect it in some way. Like, give us a little bit more explanation with maybe Nick Fury coming back and kind of he just says, "Oh, spoiler, Nick Fury's back," and then that's it. So and that's okay. I mean, I guess it's just a TV show, but I just felt like there was a disconnect there, and definitely with we talked about the party scene and Falcon being there, and then he left, and then there's a million explanations why he can left.
There's no reason Falcon shouldn't have been in that final scene with War
Yeah,
Machine.
I agree. That was going to be one of my nitpicks.
That was sorely missing. Yes.
And outside of him hooking up with the chick and like leaving with the chick, like then okay, that's cool, Falcon. Go do your thing.
Well, that's cool, but that was also days later.
Yeah, it's days later.
I'm talking about the helicarrier comes up and it's like, we got your back, and then all of a sudden War Machine's flying around blasting everybody. Where the hell was Falcon?
But, I was thinking
he should have been.
That was my first thought. Yeah.
Like as soon as I saw War Machine, I thought Falcon's coming next.
Yep,
me too. I was like, any minute now, any minute, here he comes.
But those were like my main things, and those are kind of the things that made me kind of just say, okay, this was a good movie, but it didn't give me that feeling. Like when I walked out of Captain America: Winter Soldier, I walked out of that theater and I was like, boom, #1 favorite Marvel movie, done, no questions asked. And then I walked out of Guardians and I was like, holy crap. Did this movie just pass Captain America? And then I walked out of Avengers and I was like, that was cool. And because I didn't have that oh my God, like that's why it's lower on my list. But I still like it, still enjoyed it, and
yeah. All right, Peeps, what you got? Negatives.
All right. Oh man, it's like echoing exactly what you guys said. I mean, all those different pieces. I mean, I don't really consider this a negative. I just would have liked to see a little bit more. But I mean, we all talk about, the other night we're talking about our favorite scenes, and Vision picking up Thor's hammer. Like, how badass was that? And then, like, you see that Vision, like, so then after that they have like, all right, well, let's prepare for battle, and then you see like Vision and Thor having some sort of conversation on top of the Avengers Tower, and then just kind of cuts away. And I'm like, well, what was that about? Like, I'm sure they're probably talking about the power of Thor or something. Like, I wanted to know what was going on.
Probably
there.
Ragnarok related.
Yeah, right.
Of his vision, but we won't. It probably was something to do with the cutout scene.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
I mean, that's now that I know that, I go back in my mind, and that's another negative I have. I go back in my mind and think, what should I be seeing at this point?
Yeah,
was this cut out, or was this shot this way?
I heard that they actually had filmed a scene with Thor and Vision fighting each other. Wow. And then that whole scene got axed out of the movie. So, so there's a lot that got chopped in that thing, because the movie plays it off like, Thor brings him to life, and Thor's the one telling the other Avengers, like, hey, this guy's cool. Let's, let him do his thing. But then, and then I heard that there was this whole big battle sequence between the two where they fought each other, and then you don't even see that. So, yeah.
They smack each other around a little bit.
It's interesting to see how much it gets cut out, because they mentioned 30 minutes being cut out. And if you think of a film like that, the whole cave scene lasted maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and
probably less.
So if you explain that, what do they take a maximum of 5 minutes? So that's still 25 minutes of footage that we're missing that's not relating to the cave. So you get another minute or two of the fight.
I mean, it gets so meticulous sometimes that it might just be one scene that was trimmed 15 seconds. Like they're just like chop off the end there, because it gets like the editing room gets so intense to where it's like it's not just okay, let's take this 10-minute scene and make it 5. It could be let's take this 1-minute scene and make it 30 seconds now. So it's like there's a lot of those kind of tweaks that happen also.
And in certain movies that's okay because they overshoot, but this one it seems like he had to. I mean, like he had a 4-hour script and he already got it down to 3. That's a lot. That's a whole hour of sacrificing whatever he wrote of his baby. So could you imagine being in there with him right now going, man, I got to take 30 more minutes out of here. What do I do? And then he loses a whole fight. I mean, that was shot, that was choreographed, that was, all that work done, that whole Loki scene. I mean, it would be so devastating for me if I was him.
Yeah. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
It was a good topic. You got us talking about it, brother.
Yeah, I wasn't on mute right now, by the way.
I was trying to cover for you, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then to kind of bounce off what you were saying a little bit earlier, Don, about Ultron. I totally agree. Superheroes, supervillains. They all have superpowers, and Ultron's superpower is basically every time he's defeated, his program it stays alive and he upgrades, and he's obviously harder to destroy than he was the first time. And I feel every time he was destroyed, when he came back, he was exactly the same. Even his last form, like you mentioned, when he destroyed that Ultron, when he that was talking to Scarlet Witch, I was like, oh, he looks so cool now. I don't know why I felt that way, because next time I see him, I was like, wait, he looks exactly the same. And then exactly, what your brother in-law was saying, Don. I mean, why destroy that suit? Like, you had a really awesome, Ultron with your, Jedi lifting up powers and your finger beams. Like, why destroy that? Why not just use that as another minion to fight the Avengers? I don't know.
See, I think that's purely because of a deleted scene again. Because I think that was right after he upgraded himself to the vibranium, and like he was just like punched through the head of the other body because it wasn't worthy enough anymore. Like, I don't need you anymore. I have my vibranium body now that's indestructible. I think it just
Which it wasn't, because Scarlet Witch ripped a heart out with some magic telekinesis.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Thor or Hulk threw him out the damn plane first and then attacked him up a little bit.
No.
But the fact of the matter is I feel like that was just, it looked weird and it made no sense because of the fact that they probably had deleted out him going through the motion of putting the vibranium over his metal, and so we didn't know that yet. But that's the only thing that I can say in my head that makes sense about him breaking that other version, was to be like, okay, I'm done now. I'm upgraded. I have the vibranium. Push! Like, I don't need this suit anymore. This one isn't worthy, of my brain. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
definitely.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, definitely good scene. Because again, as we know, the original body that he wanted was the Vision. So yeah, no, I totally get that. But again, to keep going with that a little bit, I do feel that the whole process of Ultron, I guess, kind of coming to power was kind of just mentioned. It's like we just really heard from Scarlet Witch's updates what Ultron was really doing. It's like, okay, Ultron just left um the Avengers Tower or whatever, and all we get to hear are just what everyone's talking about. Yeah, he has now taken over the internet. Ultron is everywhere. Ultron is this, that, but we don't really see it. Does that make any sense? Like, we don't see, like, maybe a little kid, playing Game Boy, and then Ultron, this is my Game Boy, and the Game Boy gets up and walks away. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I was like, oh god, I hope that scene got deleted.
Yeah.
No, I just really wanted to see more of Ultron, I guess, just really taking over and becoming that.
Do we really need
giant.
any more scenes though that show like inside electronics and like going down the tubes, like in Black Hat? It's like,
it's so awful.
It's like
too.
do I need to see that 500 times to know Ultron is making his way through the internet? Like, I think it just needs to be explained.
I want to see it. Like, again, I get it. Yeah. So, but I don't know. That's it. And then I guess I don't want to be nitpicky, so I'll if I can think of anything else, I'll brush over it. But like, it's really the end of the movie, and like Fred was saying, and like I was saying earlier, when I left Winter Soldier, I'm like, holy crap, game changer. Like, how the heck is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going to recover from this? How the heck are the future of Marvel movies going to recover from this? Like, this whole universe has just been flipped upside down thanks to Hydra. And yeah, that too. And so whatever. So just awesome, immense feeling at the end of the movie. And then even Guardians, Guardians kind of felt like it was some sort of like it was new, it was funny. Like, I loved Guardians of the Galaxy, and for many reasons. And then at the end of this, I feel like all Ultron really did was kind of he killed, like, probably a few hundred people in that city, but like
maybe
I don't think it was like a huge impact, like, on the world. Like, I thought, like, at the end of Age of Ultron, like, everything is going to be completely different. That's why the Civil War is coming. That's why the Infinity War is coming. It's because of the events of Age of Ultron. And
he was going to drop a city from the sky and basically recreate the extinction event level from the dinosaurs getting murdered. Like, he was going to wipe everybody out. You didn't think that was threatening enough
No, it was definitely threatening, but it didn't. But they stopped them and nothing happened.
Good.
Stopped them. They saved everybody. Good. Exactly.
But people still died, and and that, I think, is the start of, like you said, the repercussions for Civil War, which is basically how do we hold these superheroes accountable for the collateral damage. That all started with the Hulkbuster fight and them making the nods of, like, they haven't issued a warrant for your release yet, Banner, but you better watch out in case they do. And and then that's why he goes away in the Quinjet, because he's like, I don't want to hurt nobody else. And they definitely are playing on those themes of, like, what about all this collateral damage? I mean, I don't know if it was Shield or another movie, but I remember them making the nod of like, well, who's responsible for all the damage in New York? Is it these guys? Yeah. Like, for that Battle of New York, and so I mean that there's going to be a lot of consequences that do roll into, like, Civil War and stuff.
And I agree with Sean, though. I felt like there was no real major outfall from the whole thing. It was in some obscure country, and
I'm just
really
saying, like, if this happened,
end.
like, in another part of America, I guess, let's say it happened in Tucson, Arizona, or something. I don't know. It's just like, if it happened, like, international type of thing, then, when Civil War hits, we are going to have a lot of Americans backing this Civil War because of let's go back to, Transformers, remember Chicago or remember New York. It's like these are two different events that they can bring up, like, oh, New York happened, and then everything that happened, again, I'll just use Tucson as an example. It's these superheroes. They need to be controlled. They need to be, they need to be able to be held responsible for their actions, type of thing. So I don't know. I think this movie was one long prelude to Phase 3. I don't feel that it was its own movie that kind of. Again, I don't feel it was like the Winter Soldier, which it was its own movie, and then it was a game changer. It was nothing but hints and clues as to what's going to come in the future, and last but not least, Ultron himself. I hate in movies where they're like, all right, well, the only way for us to kill the bad guys is for us to, destroy 1,000 of whatever. So we have to make sure we kill each and every single piece. And then you just assume at the end of the movie that every single thing is destroyed. He had, like, after they destroyed the internet, right? Isn't that how they stopped him? They killed the internet or something?
They just cut him off from the internet.
Oh, they blocked his Wi-Fi.
He could still be in the internet for all we know.
Yeah, they called Comcast and said, "Hey, internet cable provider, stop sending it."
They were like, "Unplug your modem and then plug it back in."
He had thousands of robots, and Vision confirmed that last robot, you're the last one, right? Yeah. So, I don't know.
I don't think that means he can't come back. How are you so sure he's not going to come back, but you think fucking Ronan's coming back after it got blown up?
I know. I've told you guys.
Ultron has more of a chance of coming back than
anybody.
You guys. So that's really it. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I love this movie. It was awesome. I'm a huge Hulk fan, and I guess my last beef is I wish Hulk would kind of evolve as a character, and so that I would like him to speak. I'm sick of grunting Hulk. I know Pat likes Hulk's lines in this movie. He has them all memorized, but I love that part. Yeah, but like, I just like, as Fred and I, and even Pat, like, he speaks. He has his own personality, and they kind of touched it a little bit when Stark mentioned Banner, and then Hulk was like, "Woo!" It's like, "Oh yeah, don't mention don't mention Banner." Banner and Hulk hate each other, and I want to see, I guess, a little bit more Hulk personality, and that's just maybe because Hulk's my top favorite. I'm a huge Hulk fan, and
they did it in the first movie. He was talking. They kind of went backwards on his character without having him have any lines, which I don't know.
Then like he has control of the Hulk at the end of the first one, and now the only way they have control is, I guess, the lullaby. Like, they still, Like
I thought
it's
that was
kind of
dumb.
control, but not really control. But
I feel like it was like a partial control. You know what I mean? Like he was partially controlled because he was just going to town on all the alien things, and then we don't know how he got
he still
calm.
saved Tony at the end, and
True.
3 different. He caught him in the air, and he scared him back to life. So
And he didn't kill any of the Avengers when
and
he was
he
fighting
didn't eat
alongside.
an Avenger, right?
I'm
So-
talking about the second one. Like, you know, he
yeah.
still didn't eat any Avengers, you know. So, I mean, I feel like there was like the hints of control being there,
Yeah.
but it's just, you know, he needed help to calm down at
Right.
specific times.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was going
I
to say.
got
Like
that.
he's got the control over the Hulk part, but he's so worked up after
He'll
a
probably
fight
start
that she
losing it,
needs to
yeah.
come in to be like, "Hey, the sun's setting," and like rub his hand and jerk him off, and then he goes, then he just calms down and becomes Bruce Banner again. You know, so
You could have skimmed off 4 minutes of the movie and gave me more bathing Thor scene.
I'd hope that there's a spin-off Hot Tub Thor machine. That,
There you go.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
comes out down the road.
But I hear you though, Peeps. I would have liked to hear him say a couple extra lines, like even if it's just Smash or
I was kind of waiting, maybe even at the end, like when she was saying, you know, like come back to me, like I need you, and like him saying like no, too dangerous. It's something like that. But he just I'm sticking my finger out and I'm gonna turn it off. So they shows that he has an intelligence, but like I don't know, just that. And so I've pretty much said it. So.
All right. It's worthy. It's worthy. I think you're right. I mean, especially the fact that if they had never hinted at him talking in the first Avengers film, it would have been no big deal. But the fact that he did say puny god and you know and all this stuff like in the first film, then why the hell could he not say a word in this one?
It was noticeably missing.
Yeah, he could have at least said lullaby. Jack me
Yeah.
off. Like, Black Widow tickle bitties.
Movie Don wants to see.
I don't know.
That movie's gonna come out
have
in the summer or something.
That movie might be out already.
Don.
No, Triple X damn show. But it definitely, you know, the events of what happened in there definitely are helping us lead to Civil War. I'm going to take a second here to read the synopsis of what Civil War is about, and you'll see how it kind of ties in. For those of you that didn't see, the official synopsis came out today from Marvel for Civil War. And it reads, Captain America Civil War picks up where Avengers Age of Ultron left off, as Steve Rogers leads the new team of Avengers in their continued efforts to safeguard humanity. After another international incident involving the Avengers results in collateral damage, political pressure mounts to install a system of accountability and a governing body to determine when to enlist the services of the team. The new status quo fractures the Avengers while they try to protect the world from a new and nefarious villain. So you can see on there that basically this is leading right off of Ultron. Like the government's already kind of like, do we hold these guys accountable? They're on the fence, and then this new Avengers team goes out, like they said. There's some collateral damage based on something that the new Avengers team does, and then the government's like, all right, that's it. We gotta hold these guys
General
accountable.
Ross is all up. Nope, we don't want him. We don't want him here.
Yeah, so we found out today that General Thunderbolt Ross is going to be part of the film, so I'm sure he's going to be a big factor of spearheading this rule and
Red
everything.
Hulk.
So you never know, that'd be tight. Which would be interesting since Hulk is the one guy missing from this film, but that they did this connection finally.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a little bit more about Civil War later on. But Pat, let's get to you. What negatives do you have, my friend?
I think a lot of it had to do with what it didn't say in a lot of ways. Like, we already covered how there was no Tony Stark, but we still have no idea what happened to Hawkeye during the Civil War. I thought maybe that was going to be explained. It never was. And
Even like an apology, like sorry I was there, man.
Yeah, like they made it sound like maybe because they made us feel like it was because he had a family. One of the things I didn't like about the movie was the family. I mean, honestly, I felt like it was unneeded, and they could have used any place to go lay low. I don't think it brought me closer to the character. It actually made him seem less cool to me because he seemed all like, well, they're going to need you, kind of thing. And he's like, well, they're my problem now. And you're like, come on, man. This is like, you could have cut this out. Is what I'm getting at. You could have gave me a Thor fight. I still feel like it was necessary. I didn't think it really drove the story forward or developed Barton's character any. I could have seen Barton do more with that time than him hanging out at the farm, hugging on kids and talking about changing the tile in a room.
Yeah, they
I
could
don't
have
know.
got us to like him, with a few more action scenes, or maybe just
Yeah.
something else. Yeah.
It was a weak way to enter in Fury. Some of the parts in that part where people were speaking didn't make very sense to me. Like I felt like they were using different people should have had those lines at different times, and so like I kind of feel like that speech at the end. I think it was it you Frigginz that said something, and the
Yeah.
second time I went and saw it, you were totally right. I felt like it was
Right?
something Captain America should have been saying.
Yeah, Fury comes in, he's giving that game-changing speech. It's like, why is Cap not doing that?
Also, I don't know how
Because we need something for Fury to do. He was in the movie for 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, you could have done something different. I mean, it could have been underground. We could have seen
That
Shield.
cameo at the end was good enough.
I don't know. They needed more. I agree with Don. They had to be more than just a cameo. But I mean, honestly, like when I did leave Civil War, I did think that it was like a game changer, but it really wasn't. Like when you watch the show, I mean, Hydra isn't really that big of a threat, and everybody can easily defeat it. They're almost a joke in the show.
Yeah.
Hydra's a joke. It's a joke. I don't know how they took over. And like 5 agents are able to take over. Then there's another agency, and I mean, really, ultimately, the Marvel universe wasn't changed at all. Shield kept going on. The government's aware of Shield. It seemed like everything went downhill because the show was part of the movie to me. So when it did get, because they were leading up to this movie, when they led up to the movie, it just showed me how lame the show really is comparatively in the MCU, because even Hydra was a joke in the movie. They were like a 10-second, well, they were like the 10-second enemy you have in a role-playing game. Like your guys kind of wade through them. That's what the beginning of this movie was. They waded through Hydra and kind of just closed that story for the TV show, and you never see Hydra again. They weren't part of this issue. They weren't trying to get the Ultron back. So it was like they really kind of that's almost like it was just a nod to the TV show.
It was just there for them to be doing. It was just there for them to be doing the experiments on Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to explain them, and then that was about it.
I don't feel like Hydra's changed the world much, even in this one. I mean, the government and all doesn't seem to be going after Hydra. Now we're gonna have the Civil War. I bet Hydra's not even really mentioned much. I bet it's gonna be all about the Avengers. I feel like if you're gonna do something so world crushing to Captain America and to Shield supposedly being destroyed, and none of them really seemed shocked Nick Fury was alive, and some of them didn't know. Like, oh, there's Nick Fury's in the kitchen. Well, that's cool. Thanks for coming back, boss. I mean, unless they did know.
Yeah, Cap probably told everybody because he was there.
So I don't know, maybe, but I mean, again, it was what they didn't tell in here. Like, we don't know what Shield was going. Shield just gives up on the Ultron project. I feel like. I don't know. Maybe Shield wouldn't know the Ultron project was there, but they gave up on whatever they were doing on the sphere. That one guy's like, "We'll never surrender to it. I'm going to surrender." I didn't understand that scene. Just take the crap and run. I mean, the other guy is out. Why wouldn't they take the staff and run? So I had some problems with the storyline in that area dealing with Hydra. I had some the Bart scene really bothered me. I feel like it was glossed over that he wasn't even in any of the movies. Almost like Iron Man 3, which rightfully should have been glossed over. Like, in the whole thing with Pepper, like, she almost died, and there's all these issues, and they were like, oh, Pepper's now running a business. Like, nothing happened. Like, hey, Tony, I'm glad to hear Pepper's okay.
Yeah, we were supposed to get that explanation about where the hell Hawkeye was during the Winter Soldier event.
I remember.
Like, that was what they said, oh, it'll all be explained in Age of Ultron. I don't feel like any of that was explained.
Nope.
Like, I mean, unless they just want us to assume he was on the ranch with his family, but it's like,
That's lame, too. Why would he stay on the ranch? It doesn't sound like Hawkeye's character.
I mean, it would have been as simple as him having like one scene, like less than a minute long, with him going up to Cap and being like, "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you with the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D." Like something, and just be like, "Oh, don't worry, man. I know you had stuff to take care of."
I had other priorities, and then looks at his family.
Yeah.
Or what if it was like Operation Infinity Stone or something? Like some really, it could have been a nod to something else in another movie. Like he was investigating, and you could have been like, "Ooh, what's up with that?"
That's where they went wrong with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because when all that stuff started with Mockingbird and what's his face, the big tall black guy, like when they started being all sneaky, before we found out there was a second S.H.I.E.L.D., I was like, okay, this would be smart if like they're doing this side mission for Hawkeye, and like Hawkeye's been like doing this stuff with them, and like that's all been going down since the fall of Winter Soldier, like he's been off doing this other kind of thing for Fury. That would have been awesome. I was so disappointed when it ended up just being another shield device. I was like, damn, man. Yeah.
Turns out he was just remodeling his bathroom.
Exactly.
So, no, I mean, and that's
Thanks,
why
Clint.
I think he's like, I had 12 arrows. What did you want me to do? Anyway,
I'm just here with a bunch of bow and arrows. None of this makes sense.
I feel like that they made a mockery of his character a little bit too much, and they could have really made him better than he was. On that note, I feel like that's why the whole Shield thing not really being the end of the world when Shield dropped out, it wasn't really a game changer to anything but the TV show. I think that's why Fred feels like that the TV show didn't really have anything to do with the movie, because it kind of didn't. I mean, there was all these things that led into the movie. I agree there was like 6 or 7 episodes that you knew was going into Age of Ultron, but I don't think the outcome of the TV show or the outcome of Captain America really bled over into this movie. I didn't really feel like this was a post-Shield world like it should have felt. You know, like there's nowhere to turn and there's no Shield, and it didn't feel like that at all. And it was almost like, again, everything was so kind of rushed that it felt like that these things, like I want to know what scene. Maybe there was a scene with him saying, hey, this is where I was at, but they had to cut it because it was 30 minutes, had to leave the film, and it wasn't that important for the film, you know? So I again, everything that most of the problems I have might just be him cutting this film. But I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I just felt like there wasn't enough told, and there wasn't enough outcome. And I'm with Sean. The one thing I did feel when the movie was over was like everyone was talking like nothing big happened. Like the West Coast Avengers were formed, and everything was good there, but there was really no outcome. I mean, we barely even hear about Pietro's death. I felt like it just got dropped, and then you like see a baby's name on a T-shirt. And we're supposed to go, oh, that's closure. It wasn't closure. Like there was no like funeral scene. There was no like, you know, everyone looking around him like, oh man, there's no statue erected, no name. Like if she's looking at that wall, could have been his name on that wall, like they do with the CIA agents, like a star, you know, something saying. Sorry, I'm breathing problems. Something saying, hey, this guy fell in the line of duty, and it just kind of got dropped. Again, this is all nitpicking. I love this movie.
Right.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on top of that too, I mean, like, and the way like Scarlet Witch took his death, like I know she basically took out Ultron afterwards, but I thought she was going to like start screaming, and then we will start seeing like little tears around her, like she's literally, you know, tearing down like the like reality and all that kind of stuff, because you know, as Fred and I know, like she has that type of power. So
no, she doesn't. She's telekinetic
in the movies. In the movies,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. They totally gimped her out when it comes to magic.
Telekinetic and can control your mind. Like that's, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, she's just telekinetic and she's Jean Grey.
There you go.
Well, I mean, it was still pretty badass. I mean, he died, and then she's like, "Wah!" and then all those robots exploded.
That was pretty
I mean,
cool.
you got a taste of how cool her power really truly was if she just let go of it. You know?
Yeah, I find it kind of interesting that, like, with, and this is almost ironic, but, like, you know, with the first Avengers, a lot of the feedback and a lot of the complaints were it took too long to get there and it was too slow. And now, like, a lot of our complaints are it was too rushed and there wasn't enough explained. And poor Joss, man, the guy can't get it right.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think he can get it right. I mean, I think it just comes down to, like, a painting. I may like certain aspects of it, and you're gonna hate it, you know, or you're gonna like a lot of it, but not like this. I mean, it's just the eye of the beholder, right? I mean, again, I walked out feeling the exact opposite as you. Like, this is outstanding. And then my second time I watched it, I was, you know, that's when I really noticed most of this. It wasn't even my first time. The first time was like a rush. I was like, you know what, this is great. But the second time I was like, I still don't know. I looked again, and maybe I missed something, but they still don't know what happened to Hawkeye. I still don't know why this family scene's in here. I don't get how they thought this was going to make the character more enduring to me. I was actually more attached to Ultron than I was Bart during those scenes. Like, Ultron was a likable villain. He's all like, oh, good God. When the Hulk goes into the, you know, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut your arm off. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be okay. You know, I mean, it was just like, there was these scenes that made him likable. And there was scenes in the movie that made Hawkeye likable. That whole scene when he was at home, I just didn't buy it. It just didn't seem Hawkeye. It didn't seem, and there's like, well, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, director helped me keep this off the radar. But you just brought everyone there. I mean, there's not 100 other places you could have went. So, I mean,
it was off the books.
Yeah, whatever. There's plenty of places off the books.
I don't know. I don't know. I
could
definitely
have went to Coulson. That would have been a cool tie-in. Coulson.
Yeah,
being the
he's
movie.
off the books, I guess, right?
Yeah.
They still think he's dead.
I know exactly.
I know.
I don't know.
That's what I thought. They were gonna like reveal Coulson a little bit, but
no, they always said from the beginning they weren't going to touch on Coulson, not for this movie.
I think Joss even said he was upset that they even brought Coulson back to life.
He was extremely pissed that they brought him back.
Yeah,
because he wanted him to really be that factor of why they got together in the first movie. You know.
If they ever when they find out what's gonna happen, right? That's what I want to know.
Break up.
They're not going to explain it. He's just
going
to show up there, and they're just going to not explain it.
I'm telling you, the end credit scene at the very end should have just been the Avengers chilling, and then have him like just walk through the room like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And then just like walk out the other side, and then have them all look at each other like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
like, that would have been hilarious.
Awesome. So I mean, it was really for the first time I felt like, for the most part, this movie, and this is really what it all comes down to, was really like outside of the universe on its own. I didn't really feel like it was attached too much. There was no fallout from any other movies. So the very thing that I liked about Iron Man not being part of it with Iron Man 3, it almost makes it a joke that they didn't even touch anything on the president being kidnapped and his house being blown up and all his suits being gone. And yeah, I mean, there was like all this I mean, really, if you think about impact, that movie should have had more impact than maybe even Winter Soldier, because I mean, yeah, I mean, it was like this big event with the president gets kidnapped. That's not something light, you know, but they don't even mention it, you know?
Here's another thing, how they disregarded Iron Man 3. Rhodey's back to War Machine. They don't even touch on the fact that he was the Iron Patriot.
Yeah, they could have been like, "Where's your Iron Patriot suit?" He's like, "I lost it in Iraq."
Exactly.
You know,
yeah, they didn't even nod about the fact of like, "Oh, so you decided to go back to your original suit."
Take the paint off. Yeah.
You know, like it was a little tacky. You know, like I mean, just something like they could have just snuck in these little nods, but it's like they rather just ignore it. You know, I don't need them to explain every event that came off all the previous movies to make it feel connected.
But tie them in a bit.
But you know, there's certain things. I mean, it's certain big things when it happens to our main characters. I think they need to spend a little bit more time on it. I mean, even as much as we all love Winter Soldier ends with pretty much everybody going their own ways too.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of this movie, we're all together, and it's like, how did that happen? You know,
how did they get I mean, the call for the Avengers was Coulson, and you would think when the end of Avengers 1, you didn't really know if they were going to come back together, remember? And she's like, well, they're going to have to because we'll need them. Remember? He's like, how do you know? Because we'll need them.
No, that's
kind of thing. And like
Fury
this
says. But,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. At the end of Avengers 1. And then Coulson's like, I got to call the Avengers. And they just, okay, cool, that's all it takes. Who called the Avengers? It could have been Coulson because they don't know he's alive.
No, it was Maria. He told Maria to assemble the Avengers because Maria works for Stark. So she took care of it.
They just did? I mean, it was like that whole doubt was gone, you know?
Well, because they were looking for Loki's staff, and they had located it at Von Strucker's place. So he said, "Okay, we've figured everything out. Now, you know, let's go assemble the Avengers and take care of it." And he told Maria that because Maria works for Stark and she's around all of that. So she said, "All right, cool." So I mean that all made sense. But it just lost like I said, the end of Winter Soldier, it's like you see Fury burning his patch and he burns his whole locker, and then Scarlet's like, "I'll see you when I see you," and she just like takes off and does her thing, and then Cap and Falcon are like, let's go looking for Bucky, and then it's like everybody goes off in their own direction, and then like as soon as this movie starts, they're all together, and it's just kind of like, okay,
they didn't even mention his name. They said missing person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got to get back to our missing persons case.
But at least they gave the attempt to give an explanation why Falcon wasn't there, and see, that's all we're asking for. What is that one line that explains why he's gone? They could have done one line throughout all these different places.
Yeah, he's talking about Bucky. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So that's really all I have. I mean, I mean, as a movie on its own, though, it's great. It really is, and I don't really have too many. I mean, besides the things you guys brought up, I really don't have anything else to say about the movie. I think that Josh did a great job. I felt like he's getting unnecessary flack. I don't know what people want out of this movie. I feel like lately it seems like really good movies, people are just finding a reason to hate them, like Transformers and things like that, and X-Men Days of Future Past.
Into the Storm, I know.
Oh, that. Oh, I'm trying to find a reason to like that one.
All right,
But
don't distract him.
but
Stay focused.
but I feel like I do feel like that though. That people are just hating to hate now, and it's like the fun thing to do because I really can't. Even if we take everything we said into effect, none of that took away from this movie really. In the end, even Friggin said he still liked the movie when he left.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
I feel like that it's a little over the top. Like it's easy to point fingers, but I think he did great considering he lost 30 minutes of his story. Actually, an hour and a half if you're really technical of what he was intending to tell us, and which is sad that I don't think if I was him I would come back. I don't care how much money they would give me. I feel like at this point, it was an embarrassment. It would be an embarrassment to me. And Josh is a creative guy. Like he likes creating his own things, and he's very great at telling a story and moving a story forward. And I felt like because of the cuts they made him do, that the story isn't the story he wanted to tell. Definitely, and it shows a little bit.
To your point about people just complaining to complain, I learned a new word this last week, and it was contrarians. And I like that word. It's someone who's always, talking to the contrary to what everyone else is saying. So if everyone likes it, the contrarian's going to be like, no, this movie sucks kind of thing. And you're right. There's just so many people talking trash just to talk trash, I feel like.
Oh, totally. That is exactly the vibe that's going on online right now. It's like people can't explain why, but you look at like boards and message boards and stuff, and it's just, there's so many people that are like, this movie's garbage, it's the worst movie Marvel's ever done, and you're just like, what? Like, where could that possibly come from?
The box office doesn't say that.
And it's just, exactly, and the critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, not the critic rating, the fan rating for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes is 91%. So I don't think that it's, people are hating that hard, but for some reason this has become one of those films, like what we talked about, what Transformers has become, where it's like, oh, Michael Bay, Transformers, it sucks. And it's like, just because it's the fun thing to talk shit about. Yeah, so now this Avengers movie is riding that exact same train. For some unknown reason, it has become the biggest thing for people to bitch about right now. And I have just no idea, because anytime I try to ask somebody, well, why? They're like, oh, it just sucked. And it's just like, okay, great, thanks. So
too much action.
I hate that when you can't tell me why you could tell me why you like something, but you can't tell me why you didn't like it. I mean, honestly, were you being objective at that point?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so let's try to keep it moving along. The only one main point I want to make kind of to Pat was like, as much as you didn't like the Hawkeye stuff, I actually really liked it. I'm totally opposite from you on that. Like I knew going into the movie that they were going to spend a lot of time on Hawkeye because, I mean, he got completely fucked in the first movie. He almost didn't even come back to do this movie, the second one, because he was so furious because when they signed him to be Hawkeye and they said, hey, you're going to make your big debut in Avengers, in the script at the time, he was supposed to be a main player in the film, and then it was a last-minute rewrite that made him into, like, that Loki zombie kind of character. And he went along with it, but he was, like, pretty bummed out that they kind of flipped it on him at the last second. And so after the movie came out, he was kind of like, man, that wasn't really what Marvel signed me up to do. I'm a little burned. I'm a little butthurt by it, this and that. And Joss really, really likes, Jeremy Renner and wanted to do more with him. So he promised him, when we do the sequel, like, I'm going to put a big focus on you. And I thought it was really needed. I thought it was refreshing. I mean, he's the character we know the least about. This is the 11th Marvel movie. We literally had him for like 1 minute in the first Thor movie, and then we had him as a zombie for most of Avengers.
I agree about that. But...
He should have been in Winter Soldier. He got fucked out of that one. And then, so we finally get him in this film, and it's like, I thought they really built his character up nicely. I mean, maybe they spent a little bit too much time on the farm, but I thought it was really cool to see, like, there was that scene in the beginning when they were like, he was on the phone and they're like, who are you talking to, your girlfriend? He's like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend, and then it was kind of cool to be like, hey, this is my family, and who knows, because like we were talking about in the very beginning of the show, that could have all just been a big plot device too to make us feel like he was gonna die. So there was the point there to be like, oh, we're gonna get invested. He's got a wife and he's got kids and his wife's pregnant with another baby on the way. Like you're like, oh man. And if they hadn't gone to the farm, you wouldn't have got that really cool scene with Tony and Cap, like chopping the wood out in the yard, and kind of that was like the Civil War kind of seeds getting planted, of them disagreeing about who's accountable and all that kind of stuff. So like, that's where we got Fury. I mean, there was a lot of that went into those farm scenes, and
I think it takes way who I wanted, I guess, Hawkeye's character to be because of the comic books. So I guess that's a little unfair,
Yeah,
maybe
we
me to
can't
say.
compare it. Yeah.
But yeah, because of who Hawkeye was, he was this cool kind of badass character of alone and all this, and now he's the family guy. He wants to go home and arrange his kids. So the next time I see him, I'll be like, wonder what he fixed on his farm.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's
it's
why,
not going to be so much.
I was so happy that he got signed to do Civil War because I was just like, man, we need him in more movies. You know, like I want to see his character explored more. You know, so I mean, so I like the development that they did for him. It made me really enjoy, you know, and I like the little nods that he did, like when he and this goes into our positives on the thing. I liked when he, you know, stabbed Scarlet Witch with the arrow and was like, you ain't making me no zombie. I've already been there, done that, you know, kind of thing.
That was awesome.
You know,
yeah.
and then I loved his speech with Scarlet when he was just kind of like, you know, you need. You know, we're all scared, but you got to go out there and do your thing. Like, look at me, I'm just here with some bow and arrows. Like, none of this makes sense. You know, and he's like, you know, we're fighting aliens and robots and all this shit. Like, I'm the least, you know, accountable guy on the team. You know, but if you
And
go
see,
out
that's
there,
a
you become an
great
Avenger.
way to build him up. You know, that was a great way to build him.
You know, and then even like when he was like after Quicksilver kind of was being snotty to him in that scene, and then he started mocking like him shooting him with the arrow and killing him. And
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
like, oh, I don't know what happened. Like Ultron just like shot him and he died.
Didn't he say at the end of that?
that?
Didn't he say like, "Oh, I missed," which is hilarious because he never misses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so that he had so many cool little moments like that I thought was really, really cool. I thought they really built him up and gave him some shining moments, and I think that a lot of that was due to the farm scenes and like bringing his wife and family into it. So, I don't know, just my opinion, but let's flip it. Let's get into our positives. Let's just kind of touch on the things that really stood out to us. I don't want to spend another hour on it, but like let's just kind of touch on, you know, like just the things that when we walked away we were like, damn, that was some tight ass shit. So for me, you know, like I said, I really liked Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I mean, I love their addition to it, although I never felt that Quicksilver was as fast as the one in X-Men. You know, a lot of people were trying to compare to the two. The one in X-Men was able to stop time, maneuver bullets around, and he couldn't even save save Hawkeye, you know, which I thought was a little odd.
I kind of like that
he's
about
a little
it, though.
overpowered, though.
Yeah, the X-Men one was super overpowered, so I kind of liked that they slowed him down a bit. I don't know. I thought it made it more, like, I don't want to say more real, but, you know, in a way, I mean, I guess more grounded.
I don't see how he couldn't have grabbed Hawkeye and the kid and moved him out the
Me
way
neither.
in time. You know, I mean, it's just like the Flash. Like the Flash could have done that like in 2 seconds. You know, like it
He
just.
literally
But the Flash
watched.
can't stop a swarm of bees. I don't
He
get that.
literally watched a bullet shoot up in front of.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, he couldn't react to
when
it,
Bart
though.
shot it from the floor. Yeah, well, I mean, he could have. He was so slow. He saw. So I don't know what that was
Yeah.
about. I guess he was moving so fast.
He was
right
just
then.
confused. He was like, why is the bullet going up? Oh, shit.
Why is it so slow? Because I'm not moving at all. But anyway.
All right, yeah. So back to positive. So going into a positive on Quicksilver was the fact when Thor threw his hammer at him and he sees the hammer going by in slow motion. He's like, ooh, and he tries to grab the handle and it throws him like flying across the room. That was excellent. Whoever thought to do that was
so
amazing.
That was probably my favorite shot in the whole movie.
It was so good. You know, like I thought Scarlet was just amazing. Like I love Elizabeth Olsen and I'm glad she's coming back. I'm glad she's part of the team now full time. But like just her hand maneuvers and like doing the magic spells and I loved her character inside and out. I liked the way that they brought Vision into it because I thought that was pretty cool that Ultron, like one of you mentioned earlier, that Ultron actually creates Vision to be his alternate body, and he's trying to download himself into the body, and they keep fucking with him and interrupting the download and all that, and then you know Thor ends up basically pushing it over the edge with his hammer and activates him, and he's got an Infinity Stone in his head, which is the stone that was inside Loki's scepter. It's the Mind Stone. You know, but I love that like that was why he was created, was to be the ultimate body, the ultimate AI for Ultron, you know, but they stopped it and they brought him to life with kind of Jarvis's AI, and I thought that was such a cool mixture. And I love that, you know, everybody's standing there. They're like, hey, how can we trust this guy? And he's like, I don't expect you all to trust me or whatever, but we got to go get this fight. And he's standing there holding Thor's hammer and hands it to him. And like,
that's my favorite scene, by the way.
Yeah, it might be my favorite scene too. I mean, everybody's face is like, what?
Including mine. I was like, what?
Exactly, because you had that scene earlier at the party
Yeah,
where
it
they're
was
talking
good
about
contrast.
only the people that are worthy can lift it, and no one can lift it. Cap kind of
Even
like
Hulk
shook it a
couldn't
little
lift
bit.
it from the first movie.
Yeah. And you had Cap kind of rock it a little bit, which was awesome, and Thor kind of got a little scared. Then he was like, all right. But to see Vision hold it was incredible. And then that it only took 2 seconds to do that scene and basically make the whole team be like, okay, he's trusted, because it was like he held the hammer. So how can you argue with the fact of trusting this guy?
What's really cool is it didn't only affect the team, but the audience. Like, we were in a packed house, and you could hear everyone just go,
the air got sucked out of the room then.
Yeah, so good, man, so good. And that actually comes into play again later when Ultron's fighting Thor, and he's got Thor like choking him out, and then Vision just clocks Ultron across the head with the hammer. Like he comes out of nowhere and just smashes Ultron with the hammer.
Funny scene too.
Which was
I've
awesome.
run out of things to say.
Yeah, Thor. I'm Thor. I'm the mighty Thor. You can't mess with me. I'm running out of things to say. And then Vision just boom hits him with the hammer, which was great. I loved, and that goes into another positive, which was a lot of the kind of tag team moves, like them working together. Thor and Cap worked together so well in this film, like with, hitting the shield with his hammer and, bouncing the hammer off the shield and
creating
all
that
kinds of stuff.
shockwave.
Yeah, like all the things that they did together was incredible, like action scenes that they did. And, like it just, oh man,
They seem like a team.
Yeah, they really did. They seemed like they had been working together. And there's some good scenes with Thor and Cap fighting in the street in the first one together, but they like took it up like 10 more notches in this one, which I just thought was excellent.
I feel like Thor's gonna be. They're leading into Thor being on Captain America's side during the Civil War.
He's not going to be in Civil War.
He's
Really?
Ragnarok, right?
Yep. Yeah, he went back to Asgard.
Wow.
He's not going to be on Earth during it.
It's just one less superhero.
He wasn't there in the comic either, so.
I don't remember. I stopped reading it after a while. It's awful.
Yeah, there's only like 2 people missing from Civil War, and it's Thor and Hulk. So they're they got it stacked. But yeah, but it's just the tag team moves of really making them feel like a unit. I really did like Ultron. I thought like his humor came across really well, because I had heard before we saw the movie, they said, "Oh man, Ultron's really funny," and I was like, "What?" I was like, they made him funny? I thought he was supposed to be menacing, like big bad robot. But you know what? It played out so well on screen.
James Spader was awesome.
Yeah,
and now I listen to the Blacklist. All I hear is Ultron.
Exactly. Well, that's what messes my wife up, because we do watch the Blacklist, and then when we saw the first trailer for Avengers, she's like, "Oh, I hate it," because she's like, "All I see in my head is the dude from Blacklist." Like she's like, I can't believe it in a robot body, And I was like, "Oh, but I think it went so well together." But all the little moments of it, of bringing in Ulysses Claw, which we know is going to be leading into Black Panther, and getting the vibranium, and like I said, slicing his hand off and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, did that hurt?" Like he was kind of like, didn't mean to, but nothing tops, him in the helicarrier, and then Hulk jumping into it, and you just hear, "Oh God, for the love of God," he's just like, "Leave me alone."
This is ever gonna end,
and you just see Ultron get chucked out the back of the Quinjet, and you're just like, "Oh my God, it's so awesome!" Like the fact that you didn't see him do that, but you just heard, "Oh, for the love of God," you're just like, "It's so good."
It was implied.
Yeah, and then just a little line moments. One thing Joss does really well is just dialogue. Like when Vision is talking to Ultron at the very end with the last body of Ultron, and they're going back and forth, and Vision's trying to talk about giving humanity a chance and all this stuff, and Ultron's like, "You're so naive," and Vision's like, "Well, I was just born yesterday." Just moments like that are just so unique. And I think one of my favorite moments, besides Vision picking up the hammer, is when Thor, Iron Man, and Vision all blasted Ultron at the same time.
Yeah, that was very epic.
That was one of those comic book scenes that you're just like, damn! I guess you're watching it happen. You see Iron Man full-on blasters out his hand, Vision's blasting the mind gem at him, and Thor's shooting the electricity at him, and the three of them, that was straight off the comic book pages. It was just so beautiful. And
what's really cool, too, is that scene affects people who don't know comics. Like my girlfriend, she knows about the characters, but she doesn't read comics. And she's like, that told me how strong Ultron was, that he was just taking it from all 3 of them, and it took him a while before it affected him.
Yeah, before it started kind of melting the underparts,
Then got hit by Hulk.
Yeah, and then got fucked up by Hulk after that. And then he's dying, and then you get the Scarlet Witch point where she goes to get her revenge, and she basically rips his electronic heart out, which I thought was pretty awesome, And I like the little nod that she got rescued by Vision, because we all know that they end up together in the comics. So
That look that they gave each other.
yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg. She was about to die. She was willing to sacrifice herself, and Vision comes flying in and rescues her. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're on the same
Bedroom
team now.
eyes.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I love Paul
Here's some
Bettany.
like music playing in the background.
And one of the cool things too, I don't know if any of you noticed, but one of the cool little scenes too is when Vision's first created, he's very just purple. And then when he's talking to Thor and he looks at Thor, and then you see the armor kind of just like over him, and then he shoots the cape out because he's looking at Thor and he's kind of mimicking his outfit, which was I thought was a really cool little nod that he's just standing there and he's kind of like, oh, okay, you got armor on and you got a cape, me too, and he just like all of a sudden he's got a cape and like the full green armor, you know. So that was
kind of
really
more
cool.
to me. It was even more in depth than that because this was the guy that gave him life.
Yeah.
And now he wants to be like the guy that gave him life.
Yeah, well, that's
I didn't even consider that. Nice.
Created in his image at that point.
Well, that's why I said it was like almost like a Frankenstein like kind of scene when he brought him to life. But that's what I was saying. It was such a small moment, and you have to really look for it. But you see Vision look at Thor, and he's kind of like, while Thor's talking, and then you just see the suit materialize, and then you see the cape shoot out, and he's mimicking Thor's outfit, which is I just thought was a really cool kind of way, because I remember when he first jumped out the thing, he was like all purple, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, how does he get this the full on suit? And then he just kind of materializes it. I wish we would have saw a little bit more of the phasing that Vision does. We saw it one time when he punched the robot and he put his hand through it.
It was twice.
I was surprised it was even
scene.
there.
Huh?
I said I was surprised it was even there, though, to be honest.
Well, I had read in his bio before the movie came out, they said that was part of his powers, so I was expecting it a little bit more, rather than, and the picture on his bio is him literally, like, coming through a wall, like, facing himself through the wall.
For the movie bio that said that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it says that he can, like, phase through material objects and stuff like that, and, like, the picture of him is coming through the wall.
Yeah, that like green energy, like or green and yellow, whatever it is.
Them.
Like, it was really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, so so that was really cool, and one of the coolest looking scenes, in the first movie, the big moment that we all have is when they're standing in that circle and the camera kind of pans around. You see the whole team together for the first time. In this movie, they took that and times it by 100, and it's when they all kind of move into the church in that final battle. And all the Ultron robots come flying in, and the whole team is together in that one little circle
and it was
fighting.
All slowed.
Yeah, and the camera literally rolls
So
in like a 360 around in a circle, and you see everybody. You just see Thor smashing with the hammer. You see Vision flying up through the sky, ripping robots apart. You see Scarlet Witch doing her thing. Like, you literally one by one, you saw Hulk smashing. Like, you see Hawkeye shooting arrows. Like, you got to see the whole team in one shot. And it was such a beautiful shot of them just kicking ass. And, like, that was probably my most favorite, like, visual scene of the movie. So, like, those are probably some of the big highlights. There's so much more. We could go all night talking about this, but those are the big ones that kind of stuck with me coming out of it. Fred, what do you got for the highlights?
Well, obviously, we've been talking about all the major ones, but, on top of that, you were talking about, like, visual moments, and there was a lot of visual moments that stood out to me. Number one was right off the bat when Scarlet Witch does the, like, creepy, scary movie walk. Like, she's, like, walking backwards. It's like, and I don't even like scary movies. And I was like, that is awesome. It was, and it set a creepy tone, and I really, really like that. And then directly following that, when you get Iron Man, he has that vision of all the heroes dead, like Hawkeye's laying there, and he's got arrows in him, and like everyone's just lying there dead. That took me to the comic books, and I saw, like, this is a cover of a comic book right here. Yeah. And it was just super, super cool. Another scene that I think is probably one of my favorite scenes that happened, and ironically happens in that opening scene I was complaining about, was the Cap, like, driving the motorcycle, and then he, like, flips off it and uses the momentum to throw the motorcycle, and that motorcycle just barrels through a Hummer. Like, that was so cool that he uses motorcycle as a weapon.
It just slipped.
Yeah, it did. It just looked just boom. I mean, that truck might as well have ran into a brick wall. Like, it looks so cool. And of course, the team up shot that they had in that opening sequence where everyone, like, slows as they're coming into the panel, and you kind of, we saw that in the commercial, but that was really, really neat. You talked about Claw losing his hand. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but that actor Andy Serkis, that's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
he stole that scene. Like, I was like, I gotta see more of this Claw guy. Like,
Yeah.
he's so cool.
Yeah.
I really, really liked him. And then, other than everything else we've been talking about, I think the other thing that really, really stood out to me, and this is surprising to me, is Falcon. Like, I mean, that was my biggest surprise in the Winter Soldier, was how much I loved the character Falcon, because I've never really cared for him in the comic books, and his suit was always really, over the top and all this. And even though Mackie was barely in the movie, every time he was there, I was like, yes, there's Falcon. He's so awesome. And he got a little bit of red color in his suit at the end, so that was really, really funny too. So,
yeah, it did.
So in addition to everything else we were talking about, like with the moments, but those were like kind of the visual scenes and the few other things, other than the big fights and all that kind of stood out to me.
All right, Peeps.
Cool. And yes, as you guys said, I mean, there's lots of good visualness in the movie, but I guess for me, the part that's really sticking out for me is when they were kind of fighting over if they were going to like revive Vision or not, and how they kind of had a little fight, there. You know what I mean? Like Captain America, he like threw his shield at Tony, or I don't know, I can't remember exactly. He threw it at Tony, right?
He threw it at the computers, and it was bouncing into Tony, but Tony happened to get his armor on time.
Yeah,
Or his chest piece.
It was just like, to me, it was just like a nice little nod to what's to come in Civil War, and then just, I guess, right after that, then Thor just comes in with his lightning fury, and I didn't know what was happening there. I thought he was trying to destroy it at first.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, what the hell? And then then it's born, and and then just the scene with Vision, him just kind of floating away, and then just like staring out, just looking at New York, and you're just seeing him, see the world for the first time. Like, yeah, he has the Jarvis AI, but like he actually has like a physical body. So it's like I felt that, like I felt his, him just coming to understand like that he exists the way that he exists, and then him chameleon, like, changing, the way he looks. And like you said, Don, I definitely noticed that he was looking at Thor and looked at his cape, and that kind of came out. And like everything with Vision for me, like I again I like Vision as a character. He's great, but like I've never like I really wanted to see more of him in this movie. Like I want to see a Vision and Scarlet Witch duo movie type of thing. Like he was just so cool and so calm and serene, and at the same time ridiculously destructive and powerful. And I don't know, he was great. He really did it for me in this movie.
Yeah, he's a character that you see in the comic book, and you're like, this could come off really fucking cheesy. Like
right?
In this movie, he's like this yellow and green like dude, and you're like, how the hell are they gonna pull this out? And I think they just nailed it, man. They nailed it so perfectly, using Paul Bettany, making it a connection with Jarvis, and just the way they did it. Just bravo, man. I mean, he really was a highlight of the film.
Yeah, and every time he was talking, it's like, oh, that's Jarvis. That's Jarvis. Like, oh yeah, that's Jarvis. No.
And I think it's cool how he's actually been extremely relatable to a lot of people that don't know the comic books. That's another thing I noticed. Like, I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people at work that have seen the movie that know nothing of the comics, and they're like, oh my God, that Vision was so cool. And I totally expected everyone to think Vision was cheesy and lame. And everyone just really, really likes him. So I thought that was really cool.
My son turns to me and goes, Thanos is going to have to rip his head open. It's my youngest son.
Wow.
He's like 8.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't know. Was it me
right.
and you, Sean? We were talking about that, like the opening scene of Infinity War is like Thanos ripping Vision's head off, being like 1 stone down, like 5 to go.
I think that should be the closing scene of Avengers Part 1.
Part 1, yeah.
Can you imagine if it ends that way? Like, just see him ripping it out. I just got the 6th stone.
Oh, it's perfect, man. Because of him being a robot, basically, it's gonna be so. He's just gonna rip his head off, dude. It's gonna be crazy.
Yes. it's gonna be gruesome.
It'll be
It's
sad.
gonna have some kind of
But they can put
inner
him back
guts,
together.
fleshy. Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it. They can get away with it by ripping his head off, and then it's like, oh, we'll just fix him in the next film, you know. But it'll be such a cool scene to see Thanos just basically one-handed, like snapping his head off.
I could see him saying something like really profound right before Thanos rips that gem out. Like,
Oh
you know?
yeah. Peeps.
Or something.
Mute.
Something-
I'm not on mute. I thought y'all were still talking. And yeah, sure, okay. Okay, so again, Incredible Hulk, my favorite character, and that Hulkbuster scene. And I know all you guys, you know, especially you, Don, you was talking about that a lot. I mean, like just from get go. I mean, I wished I hadn't like seen parts of that scene before, because I think there was like a little I think like a 1 minute kind of clip of that scene where they like kind of, you know, collided fists and it created that big shockwave. I saw that and I wished I hadn't seen that, because that was the Vanessa thing, right? That was like floating and giving Stark the parts as he was fighting, like
Veronica.
Okay, yeah. And oh man, like that whole like fight, that whole everything, you know, Hulk berserk mode. It was great. It was really, really good. And then like you were saying, Don, too, you know, with that whole go to sleep, you know, when he was punching his head into the ground.
Oh yeah, the robo punch, just like all fast, just smashing him in the face. It was so good.
Yeah, and I mean, like Robert Downey, of course, man. It's like that scene by itself was great, but like Robert Downey's little in-mask commentary, like he punched his tooth out, and he's like, "I'm sorry," or you know, whatever he said.
Oh yeah, or when Hulk jumped on his back, and he's like, "Oh, right in the back, dick move, Banner, dick move." You know, like,
exactly.
So
like that
good.
whole, it was great, man. It really was. And then, you know, for me, like being the Hulk fan, I'm like, there's no way Hulk can lose this fight. But you know, at the end, you know, he kind of, you know, comes out of the spell. And he's like, you know, what the hell am I doing? Where am I at? What's going on? And then he gets like that sucker punch, and then, you know, so essentially he gets knocked out. So it's like, okay, yeah. I mean,
which was that
see him.
same side punch that Hulk gave Thor in the first Avengers movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what was really hilarious about that punch.
Yeah, you know, he
They
still didn't see it
mimicked that
coming.
same scene. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So again, you know, that was, you know, that was really good. And then, you know, like honestly, everything, like all the action scenes of this movie, even, you know, Fred, you said that the opening scene came off a little cheesy. Maybe it's because, you know, we were first row in a 3D, you know, movie.
Yeah.
Probably.
Should have sat backwards.
But I don't know. I really like that scene. I every bit of it, you know, the whole shebang. And I don't know, man. Gosh, I guess I could just kind of keep on going. Everything with Ultron, you know, like you said, Don, he was like a freaking hilarious character. And you know, like, and you've kind of said so in your show too, Don. It's like, you know, it's like he is just like an image of Tony Stark if Tony Stark went complete, you know, destroy the world mode. You know, it's like he had that same kind of the cockiness,
But he hated him so much, but he was exactly like him. That was what was funny about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole premise, right? Like he was his son, kind of thing, and you know, he was the son that was going to improve everything and do better than his father, and he didn't want to be like his father, but he wanted to get his father's approval. You know, it's kind of like that little playoff.
Yeah, I mean, that's how Claw ended up getting his hand cut off, was because he said that line, and Claw was like, Tony Stark says that line. And he's like, I'm nothing like Tony Stark, you know, and he gets all pissed off, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
sorry.
Yeah,
about that.
sorry, I didn't mean
You'll
about
be
that.
okay. It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, man. I don't know, dude. But yeah, man, it was so many good pieces. But yeah, honestly, I think I'll just end it with Vision was really the best part of that movie, and I just I don't want to see his head torn off by.
It's
by
gonna
Thanos,
happen.
but it's Thanos,
Spoiler
so I'm
alert.
okay.
Spoiler
Even my
alert.
8-year-old saw it coming.
Yeah.
Spoiler
He'll
alert.
live after it. It's okay. He'll
Yeah.
live.
He will.
Exactly.
He will.
All right, Pat, what was your highlights?
All the same ones you guys listed.
I was going to say if there's anything left at
I-
this point. But
I mean, really, at this point, thanks for letting me go last. No, you know what's? I mean, I have nothing to add to the highlights, but you know what's really interesting was something that you said on your show. You guys should go over and listen to Am I on the Air? Was that they told him that they told Josh Whedon that he couldn't have Spider-Man and he couldn't have what was the other guy? What was
Captain
the other
Marvel.
one?
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel in the movie, and then now they wanted to take 30 minutes of his movie away, but then at the end they're like, you want to add Spider-Man in the movie now? I mean, man, the more I think about it, the more they just really jerk Josh around, right?
Yeah.
Big time.
No, I have nothing else to add. It's already 10:03, so go see the movie. It's awesome.
Go see the movie. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what Pat's talking about, basically, Joss said that his original ending of the film, where they announced the new Avengers lineup, like he wanted to put Captain Marvel and Spider-Man in that scene, on top of everybody else that we got. But then this was like, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, and at the time Marvel hadn't released their phase 3 lineup, and they said, we're not sure yet, we're going to do Captain Marvel, so we need to hold out on that because we don't want to introduce her if we're not going to do something with it. And then they said, well, we also don't know what's going on with Sony and the Spider-Man thing, so no, you can't add those two characters. And then fast forward several months later, they do announce that they're going to do a Captain Marvel movie, and they get the rights to Spider-Man, so they go back to Joss and they say, hey, if you still want to do that, you can go ahead and do that now. And he's like, I'm already done making the movie, fuckers. Like, so, like, I can't do it now. Like, so, like, it kind of messed him all up because he was kind of pissed because, like, it was like, that was his original vision and it would have worked out, but they shut him down on it when it was impossible for him to do it. So he was a little bit upset with that. Rightfully so. I still think they should have done an after-credit scene with Spider-Man, to be honest.
I do too.
There's no reason.
Not having one really hurt it, I think.
Yeah,
Everyone was waiting for it. I don't understand why they couldn't.
There was no because they didn't have a second after-credit scene. They had that one in the middle with Thanos, and that was it. And I don't see why. I understand they haven't even casted the new Spider-Man yet, but they could have easily just done a CG shot of Spider-Man crawling up the Avengers Tower or something in New York, and then like shooting his web and swinging off of it right into the camera to end the movie. You know, like it would have been a very simple kind of just scene to just be like, look, we got Spider-Man. You know, like, and that would have been it.
Or anything. They had nothing. They had Thanos with his wonderful eyes, Sean, and that was all they had. And like I remember thinking, you said there's no after credit scene. I was like, no, really? They're like, no, there's no after credit scene.
Yeah, you would think for Avengers is something they could have come up with.
Yeah, because like even if it's like the shawarma scene, it doesn't even have to be.
We waited
profound.
just in case.
You know, if anything, they should have done something to help Ant-Man.
There
should have been an Ant-Man scene that led
something
to
funny, right? Like,
you know,
like he's standing in Ultron's old face or something. I don't know. Something could have been anything.
Ooh, I got it. Ant-Man's reading a newspaper from the Daily Bugle, and in the picture you see like a blurry shot of Spider-Man swinging by, and then he's like, "What kind of idiot has an insect for a name?"
Yeah. Something like that. You know,
Come up with that?
Bazinga.
Pretty good.
Bazinga. No, but I mean, I agree. I feel like I really wanted one there.
Yeah,
I did.
There was no
and
reason.
It could have been anything.
They could have just done a quick one with Michael Douglas doing something for Ant-Man, and it would have been fine.
They had 30 minutes of film they took out. They could have added something in like a Ragnarok scene with him and Loki. You know, right. the Loki sitting. I don't know anything, but they didn't do anything. It was very disappointing. And the Thanos scene was cool. But I mean, it wasn't Howard the Duck, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But I mean, even they had something, right? I mean, so I don't know. I felt like the last Avengers movie didn't lead us to anything, and it was still good. You know, where they're all eating the shawarma, there was hardly any dialogue. I don't think there was any dialogue. They were just eating the shawarma, looking tired, and the guy's sleeping, right? I mean, it was awesome.
That was awesome.
I mean, it didn't even have to be all that big.
Yeah. Well, they did that shawarma scene literally like a week before the movie came out. Like that was like a last minute thing. Like they had no end stinger for that movie either. They had only filmed the Thanos thing, and then they came up with the idea for the shawarma scene and literally filmed it like a week before the movie came out, and they just added it in at the last second. For those of you who don't know, a funny little trivia thing on that too is that's why Chris Evans is eating with his hand on his cheek, because he actually had grown his beard out, because he always grows his beard out when he's not filming Captain America. And he had grown his beard out, and then they filmed that scene, so he's literally leaning to the side with his fist on his cheek so you can't see his beard.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, so like that's because they literally just like they got together for like a promo thing like a week before the movie came out, and they were like, hey, let's film this scene real quick. So they just kind of slapped it together. But that's why Chris Evans is sitting like that, so you don't see his beard. So
He looked tired to me, but that's awesome.
yeah, well, they were supposed to look tired.
Yeah,
It was right after the battle
Yeah.
of New York, so they're all busted up. So, all right, so there's basically our negatives, our positives, our overall impressions. Next up is Captain America: Civil War. I don't even know how they're calling this a Captain America movie anymore.
It's
They
not.
should just drop the Captain America part.
Avengers
This should just
2.0.
this is Avengers 2.5, flat
Well,
out.
we said
I
that
mean,
originally. It should just be called Civil War.
it should just be called Civil War. It should just be Marvel Civil War. Boom, plain and simple.
Yeah.
I know that they're saying still like, oh, Cap will still be the main presence, but
No.
this movie now has more than the Avengers movie does in it, which is crazy to think. So we already knew, of course, Captain America is returning. We knew the big news was Robert Downey Jr. joining the film, so we got Iron Man coming up in this film. We knew that Scarlett Johansson was coming back as Black Widow. We knew Falcon was going to be in there. We knew that probably that Crossbones was going to make his debut, so he was awesome in the first movie, and we knew they were kind of going there. We had heard at Marvel's big announcement that they were going to be introducing Black Panther. So Black Panther's going to be making his full costume debut in this film. Of course, we heard all the rumors about Spider-Man being a part of this film with the new Sony deal that they did. And then just a couple weeks ago, they announced that, Jeremy Renner's coming, so we got Hawkeye in this film. Then right before Avengers came out, they announced that Scarlet Witch is going to be in it, so they just keep on adding. Yesterday, they announced that Emily Van Camp, who was Agent 13 in The Winter Soldier, who's basically Peggy Carter's niece, I guess, or granddaughter or something. I don't know how they're playing her out in the movie universe, but she's coming back as Agent 13, so that was just announced yesterday. And then this morning, Marvel drops the big bomb that on top of everything we've already heard, Ant-Man is going to be in the film, which I think is awesome. So we got Paul Rudd coming into it, which I love because everybody was saying, man, Ant-Man's going to be that one and done film. It's not going to feel connected to the universe. Now it is, because we're going to get him in Civil War, which I think is great.
Super cool.
We're going to get Vision, which I think is awesome because I felt like Vision had to be there, and it was good to get the confirmation that Vision's going to be in there. We're going to get Rhodey himself, War Machine is going to be in there. And in a nice little twist of pride, well, we knew Winter Soldier got confirmed because we kind of expected he'd be there too, but they never confirmed him. But Winter Soldier will be in there. And then lastly, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross has been added to it also, which is really cool because Marvel has made no connections to the Incredible Hulk movie for the most part. We've never seen any of those characters from that film transfer over into other films. And I always
the number
felt
one
that,
thing Dawn says.
Yeah.
It really is connected.
it
a
is,
Phase One movie.
That's what's funny that was like the one subtle nod in Daredevil was that the guy wrote the article about the Hulk fight, because it's like they never make mention of anything. We've never seen Betty pop up. He never talks about Betty, which is kind of weird to me. We've never seen a connection to the Incredible Hulk film, and now we have, Mr. Ross here joining the cast, which I think is a perfect addition for a movie like Civil War, because like we said earlier, we could see him being the guy being like, we need to hold these guys accountable for what they do, and, he could be the one stirring it up and mentioning, what Hulk did, and, when they did the Hulkbuster fight in Ultron and stuff like that. So,
Now, Don, do we know if it's the same actor that's playing
it
Ross?
is William
Oh,
Hurt.
that's awesome.
He is returning, so that's what I'm saying. It's the first true connection to that film because we don't really have anything else. So it's great. So I mean, that's big news. I mean, especially Ant-Man. Like I'm so stoked that Paul Rudd's going to be in this film. I can't even explain how cool that is that they're going to connect those dots.
They need to. They needed to.
And and I mean, and with the way Avengers ended, and with him assembling the new team, I felt like, man, they gotta add Vision and War Machine into this film, and they did this morning. So that's great because we know now that the next Cap movie, Civil War, which comes out in literally less than a year now, they just started filming it, but it comes out May 6th. So as of yesterday, we were 1 year away of this film coming out, and it basically is going to be another Avengers film. We're literally going to get another Avengers film 1 year after the one we're talking about right now. Seeing that brand new lineup, I thought we were going to have to wait to Infinity War to see it, and we literally only got to wait a year, and we're going to see Cap with Scarlet Witch and Black Widow and Vision and, War Machine and Falcon busting up shit, because that's what's going to start this the action of the military, based on those casualties, based on this new Avengers team and what happens with whatever mission they're on, and I can't wait to see how Ant-Man plays into it. Is he going to join the Avengers? Is he just being brought in, based on the Civil War aspect of the rule, or what?
Wouldn't it be great, like at the end scene for the end credit scene of Ant-Man, and like shows the end of Avengers, Age of Ultron. He's like on the little tiny shoulder of like Paul Bettany or like Falcon. He's like there the whole scene. We just didn't know it, like he's part of the Avengers now. He's there.
I've seen a lot of people say that, like, jokingly. The only reason I don't think they would do that is because then you throw out the chronological order of these films. Because you can't go backwards like that. Like he's
Hank Pym.
No, because Hank Pym isn't.
Like old.
He can't be, like, they already said that Hank Pym can't wear the suit anymore because you can only shrink so many times before your body's molecular system or whatever gets thrown off, and so like he's expended all of it. That's why he has to get Scott Lang to do it. So so Ant-Man hasn't happened yet. So Scott Lang has never worn this suit. He's not Ant-Man yet. So you can't like expect him to pop up like an Avengers.
That'd have been
like
awesome.
that.
Still,
yeah, it would have been funny as hell. But like I don't know the extent of what Paul Rudd's gonna do in this film. If it's just gonna be helping out. Is he gonna get recruited to be a part of the Avengers because of the events of Ant-Man? That's what makes it really interesting. And to just see how Black Panther ties in. How big of a role will Spider-Man have? Civil War is looking just damn amazing to me at this point. Like it's almost more exciting than what Ultron gave us. Like because there's just so many more pieces to the puzzle here. Like I said, the only two you're really missing is Thor and Hulk. Here so
and Daredevil.
Well, Daredevil, but
and Quicksilver.
You can't count
Oh,
Quicksilver. All right,
want
too soon.
yeah.
So.
Fred.
So I just wanted to drop that news about Civil War because that literally just dropped this morning, so it's kind of breaking news. We haven't had a chance to talk about it on any other shows or anything, so since we're talking Marvel, there's a little heads up on the future there. So let's wrap this baby up. Let's give our final scores of Age of Ultron out of a score of 5. Of course, I gave Age of Ultron 5 out of 5. Absolutely loved it. Of course, there's little things that we wish were better, we wanted to tweak. That doesn't take away from the fact that this was just a non-stop thrill ride, fun action adventure from start to finish that really gave me everything I wanted, and I can't wait to go see it again. So 5 out of 5 from me. Fred, what would you give Age of Ultron?
For Age of Ultron, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. If I could break it into quarters, I would even have done 4 and 3/4, but 4.5 out of 5.
I'll give you the half. I won't allow you to go into quarters.
3.5777 times by pi.
It is not a knock on the movie. I'm not saying it's bad. It's an awesome movie.
Hey, 4.5 out of 5 is pretty damn awesome. So we'll let
Really
us.
good, yeah.
Oh, is it? Because when I gave it a 4.5, you guys gave me shit for an hour, so much that my mic had to cut off during the show.
Because you had no valid reason.
Oh, okay. I couldn't spoil anything. That's why.
Didn't you see the tweets? People are already calling you out on Twitter saying, how could you give 4.5 to it?
Well, I'm going to join you there. They're going to be calling me out now that I give it the 4.5.
There you go. All right. Peeps, you still hanging with your 4.5?
Still there, man. Yeah, it's still there. Again, great movie, but again, it's a great movie. Yeah, loved it. I will recommend it. I'm going to buy it. I might even buy 2 copies, the original and then the extended cut. No,
well, lucky for you, I think they're all going to be on one disc, so they're not doing a Rogue Edition. So.
That's how it should have been anyway with the Rogue Edition. But anyway,
we are getting the extended cut though. It's going to be extended cut.
Yeah,
I'm not. That's
extended cut, also featuring the theatrical cut.
Are we gonna get the Sentinel version in a couple years too?
Nice.
But no, man. Lots of fun. Through a ride. I can't wait to see it again, and I can't wait. Yeah, I want to take everybody I know to see it just once so I can get their reactions. That's
awesome.
My thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to get my wife to go. I want to see what she thinks. So so all right. So we got a 5, a 4.5. Pat, wrap it up.
Well, I was gonna give it a 4.5, but that awesome farm scene.
There you go.
Brought it up to a 5. I was
it
always
made me feel so good for.
Yeah, I feel like I needed to retile my bathroom.
That was interesting that nobody brought up the Hulk or the Banner and Black Widow love scene. Like nobody said they liked or hated that. I
didn't like or hate it. It didn't bother me either way.
Yeah, it was just neutral, I guess.
It was never going to become anything, so I didn't care.
I liked it. I mean, especially when she like suckered him and then pushed him down the hole and was like, "I need the other guy." And
That was
then
an
Hulk
awesome
came
scene.
busting up, and she
That was a
hops
cool
on his
scene. No,
back,
I forgot
piggybacks
about
up.
that. That was great.
5 out of 5 is what I give it.
Yeah,
Not
awesome.
because of the farm scene, just because it's awesome.
Just because in general. But
Yeah, just because it's awesome.
well, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we all really enjoyed it. Every movie has little things that you don't agree with, and that's why we talk about our negatives, but we talk about our positives. We all really, really loved it. Obviously, as you see, 2 5 out of 5s and 2 4.5 out of 5. I mean, it doesn't get any closer than that. So that is our spoiler-filled review of Age of Ultron. If you want to hear a little bit more about Age of Ultron, kind of more initial thoughts, you can hear me, Peeps, and Geeky Pat talk about it on the newest Red Dragons Assemble, so go check that out. And of course, if you want to, listen to the spoiler-free review, just check out the latest edition of Am I on the Air, and check out the Instagram review. It's a good little laugh. So, so this has been the spoiler-filled review of Avengers: Age of Ultron. Summer has officially kicked off. Movie made $191 million in 3 days. It's already made over $600 million worldwide. It's definitely going to be hitting that $1 billion mark here real soon. I think it's going to have another big weekend over that $100 million mark. A lot of people didn't get to see it that last Saturday because of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. There was a lot of polls that went around that said like 40 or 50% of people that, like were planning to go to the movie didn't, just to watch the fight at a friend's house or a bar or a restaurant, and it really affected the overall box office. The Kentucky Derby was going on and another big basketball game, so it was a really busy weekend, and the box office kind of suffered from it. So that's why Avengers didn't quite reach the 207 that the original Avengers movie made, and so yeah, it didn't quite hit the 207 that the original movie made. I think it would have. I was guessing between 210, 215 or so. But definitely there was a lot of factors keeping it down. But 191 ain't nothing to laugh about. Actually, Marvel holds the top 3 box office debuts in the history books. Number 1 is Avengers 1 with 207. Number 2 is Avengers Age of Ultron with 191. And number 3 is Iron Man 3, actually, with like 175. So Marvel has the top 3 biggest debuts of box office history. So I think they're okay. So that'll do it for us here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really glad that you guys came and checked us out as we broke down our spoiler-filled review of Avengers Age of Ultron. So let's wrap it up with everybody. We'll start with Mr. Frigginz over here. Where can the people find you on the great interwebs?
Well, first and foremost, I could be found on reddragonsradio.com. I'm the co-host on the People's Forum, so there's that. And also, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Frigginz. That's Frigginz, Frigginz with a Z.
Yeah, buddy, hit him up. And we got Peeps over here, host of the People's Forum. So where can people find you, my friend?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's this little website. It's called reddragonsradio.com. I'm not sure if you guys heard of it, but yes, check me out on reddragonsradio.com. People's Forum, it's mostly this all the time. So, yeah, if you like this, you'll like the People's Forum.
Oh, yeah. And you can usually find all of us mixing around the bag over there at most points. And Mr. Geeky Pat, you can find him in a couple different places over on reddragonsradio.com, reddragonsradio.com. So,
my line.
I didn't do it 5 times, so you can go ahead. And,
reddragonsradio.com, reddragonsradio.com, reddragonsradio.com.
There you go. So, Geeky Pat, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Geeky_Pat at Twitter. GeekyPatBroadcasting.com. Pretty much from there you can get to anywhere, including RedDragonsRadio.com. I even have a link for every one of these gentlemen's shows. And so check me out.
Check him out. He does 2 shows on Red Dragons Radio. He's got This Week with the Geek and Out of the Rifts. So you can check out all those great shows on RedDragonsRadio.com. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at DXDonMega. You can follow my show, Am I on the Air, at Am I on the Air. And, of course, like us on Facebook and all that good nine. We're on iTunes, and that does include the Am I Still on the Air episodes as well, which can also be found on RedDragonsRadio.com and AmIOnTheAir.com. So we are signing off. Oh, I'm on Stitcher. Don't you worry about that. So is
Oh.
Red Dragons Assemble. So if you haven't checked out that new episode, you need to go do that as well. Tearing it up. So for this Thursday, May the 7th, once again, we appreciate you checking us out for the Avengers. We'll be back probably throughout the summer as we talk about all the real big movies that are going down with some more spoiler reviews. But until next time, my friends, peace!
Red Dragon.